At 33, I'm planning to get married. At the Fashion Week runway show, facing the media, I responded with a smile. All eyes were fixed below the stage, where the spotlight shone on President Henry of the Sakura Group. As everyone knows, I followed him when I was 20. I was his only publicly acknowledged girlfriend. But unfortunately, President Law is used to being the house, and no one can control him. When his deep eyes looked at me, his expression was as indifferent as ever. I curled the corner of my mouth, revealed the ring on my hand, and said softly, "Yesterday, I accepted Oscar's proposal. I hope everyone will bless us." Chapter 1. After the grand feast of Fashion Week ended, my relationship with Oscar instantly became a trending topic. It makes sense. After all, I am 10 years older than him, a popular young star, a renowned fashion designer, and the powerful figure behind Sakura who controls everything. This certainly stirred up plenty of buzz. As everyone knows, I followed President Law when I was 20, and reaching my current status is all thanks to his support. A few years ago, when I was somewhat known in the industry, a fashion magazine did a special interview with me to create a buzz. They made a story out of my relationship with Henry Law. I still remember the article title was, "Unending Love is Tiffany's Best Brand." That year, the clothing brand I founded made a striking debut, firmly establishing itself in the fashion world. Naturally, this included major supermarkets under the Sakura brand for promotion. Even their cinema systems and advertising operations played a key role in building the brand's momentum. I, Tiffany, was merely a waitress at a restaurant owned by a friend of Henry's before I met him. After meeting him, he completely took over my life. He sent me to study, to learn fashion design, and to pursue an MBA in business administration. Step by step, I climbed upward until I achieved success and recognition. Today, I have my own company, with brands featured in the nation's top retail venues. Occasionally, I release high-end limited editions that are highly coveted within socialite circles. Of course, I am a friend to all of them and also one of them. Those around my age call me Tiffany, while the younger ones affectionately call me sister. Clearly, I have a good reputation within the circle, but it wasn't like this at the beginning. When Henry sent me to school, I was already his. He bought me an apartment, gave me jewelry, and took me to various cocktail parties and auctions. Everyone was superficially polite out of fear of his power. Behind my back, they mocked me in many subtle ways. In truth, they looked down on both my background and me as a person. They all said President Law was cursed because of an insignificant restaurant waitress. He didn't even spare Miss Anna any respect. Anna was not only a stunningly beautiful superstar who used her looks to intimidate others, but also the daughter of a wealthy family. I remember back then, when I was still studying fashion design, Henry took me to a cocktail party one evening. At the table, he mingled for business with a detached expression. Because I was hungry, with his permission, I went downstairs alone to the self-service lounge to get some snacks. Anna then gracefully walked over and accidentally spilled a glass of red wine on me. "Sorry," she smiled brightly, but without much sincerity. "It's okay." I wanted to keep the peace and avoid any trouble. But immediately after, her slender fingers took the red wine handed to her by a wealthy heiress nearby and poured it over me from above my head. Her lips red and teeth white, she smiled brazenly. "Does it matter now?" Mary. Laughter erupted all around. I knew that even if I wore an expensive gown, adorned with costly jewelry, and even if my makeup was flawless and my manners graceful from etiquette lessons, deep down I could never escape the fact that I was originally called Mary Lee. So when they laughed, I did not. I turned around, grabbed a glass of red wine from the table, and quickly poured it over Anna's head. "It still doesn't matter now, Anna," I said seriously. No one expected me to take action. After all, in their eyes, I was of humble origin, just a whim and a plaything of Henry. They even secretly placed a bet on when President Law would grow tired and leave me. Anna despised me because her family had business ties with Sakura. And at that time, Henry's grandfather, the elderly Mr. Santiago, was still alive and intended to arrange a marriage with her father. Among the younger generation of the Law family, the eldest grandson Paul was already married. The second had settled abroad pursuing academia. And the third, Joel, had a bad reputation as a playboy. The others were overlooked. Looking around, Henry, who grew up by his grandfather's side, was the most prominent. Henry Law was originally surnamed Zhao. His father was Taiwanese and later immigrated to Australia. His parents divorced when he was 4, and his mother took him back to their home country. Santiago has 3 sons, but his mother has only 1 daughter. Shortly after returning to the Law family, his mother passed away from cancer. Afterwards, Santiago changed his surname for him and raised him as his own grandson. At that time, the peaceful Law family had not yet realized what was happening. It wasn't until Henry returned from studying abroad and infiltrated Sakura through equity, seizing the group's highest decision-making power with decisive tactics, that the Law family realized too late. The old master's intentions had long been clear. Precisely because of this, Henry was the inevitable choice for the Chan family alliance. Anna Chan never expected that I would dare to pour red wine on her. She slapped me. I quickly retaliated and slapped her back. We wrestled, pulling hair and scratching faces, and even the delicate wine glasses on the table shattered, spilling crimson everywhere. Fortunately, those around us, mindful that I was Henry's woman, only tried to separate us without siding with her. It wasn't until Henry appeared at the stairs that this farce finally came to an end. When it comes to fighting, Anna is definitely no match for me. After all, I grew up rough and tumble, unrefined, a savage from a small village. So, although I was disheveled, aside from my neck being scratched by her, I was fine. She was different. Her long hair tied up was pulled into disarray by me, a few strands torn out, and her face was badly bruised. The scene was that Anna was being supported by someone, trembling as she pointed at me, accusing me, crying pitifully. I stood my ground, chin held high, stubbornly staring at her. Henry, standing by the stairs, let out a light laugh under the varied gazes of the crowd. His brand new shirt collar was slightly open, the sleeves casually rolled up to his forearms, and his fingers idly tapped the handrail. His expression as he looked at me was a half smile, half smirk. The man who rarely smiled now seemed genuinely in a good mood. He wouldn't be surprised, because he had long known my fierce side. Whether I am Mary Lee or Tiffany Lee, no matter where I am, I will never be the one who loses out. It has been this way since I met him. That night, after we left the cocktail party, he used a cotton swab to clean the scratches on my neck in the apartment. I pushed his hand away. No need. It doesn't hurt. His expression darkened little by little. Then he stood up and faced me, slowly removing the expensive watch from his wrist and unbuttoning his shirt with deliberate care. The dim lighting stretched his silhouette as he leaned down, pressed against my body, and held both my hands firmly, completely abandoning any semblance of gentleness. When Henry kissed me, his movements were fierce, and I was powerless to resist. The disparity in power between men and women is so great. It is the Creator's injustice, leaving me at a disadvantage from birth. A man can always easily hurt a woman with his strength, whenever he wishes, and when a woman faces harm, she often has no choice but to plead for mercy. Let me go, or at least, be gentle. I am a woman. I am at a disadvantage, so I choose to obey quietly. Henry is very pleased with my obedient compliance. He kisses my hair and cheeks, whispers close to my ear, always softly asking, "Mary, what do you want?" Chapter 2. Mary, what do you want? At first, I was terrified of being poor, so I told him I wanted money. He gave me a bank card. I kept withdrawing money at the ATM, clutching it to my chest, my eyes burning as I walked back to the rented apartment I shared with Mickey. It was snowing heavily that day, and I saw our rental apartment in complete disarray, with things scattered all over the floor. Oh, I remember now. My boyfriend Mickey owed a large sum of money to someone in business and ran away. He reached the train station and then called me, saying, "Mary, come over. I'll take you away with me." At 2 in the morning, I packed my things and ran desperately toward the train station. When I arrived, I found a large number of police had set up a cordon. I heard that several people had attacked with knives, killing a young man outside the train station. There was a lot of blood on the ground, and the crowd watching was still shaken, saying it was too tragic. The young man was crawling on the ground, reaching out for his phone, and they cut off his hand. In just a few minutes, the man was reduced to a bloody pulp. I couldn't find Mickey because I knew clearly that he was dead. He owed a big boss a large sum for goods and couldn't pay it back. The boss said he would take his life. I was wandering the streets in a daze, calling Henry. Hello, President Law. Do you still want me? On a midnight street. Henry found me by car and took me home. I grabbed his collar, trembling in his arms. I couldn't understand it, I was so weak, yet somehow found the courage to resist and feel pride. He had clearly said before that he was willing to give me a sum of money, as long as I left Mickey and followed him. With that money, Mickey wouldn't have died. But I was so foolish, too young, with nothing, and full of arrogance. My love could not be tainted. Mickey and I had endured long and difficult years together. We were poor, but we loved each other. I firmly believed that we could overcome hardships again by our own abilities. Mickey said the boss was just bluffing. He wouldn't really risk his life over a few $100,000. I believed him, after all. A deal where you lose both people and money isn't worth it. If we work hard together, just like when we escaped that backward village, our luck will turn, and one day we'll have our breakthrough. Mickey even went to the fighting club to be a human target. He said it was a quick way to make money, just some injuries. Nothing fatal. Besides working at the restaurant, I also took a part-time job at a breakfast shop, waking up early and working late every day. We live small, hardworking lives, so how could he have died? Why is money so hard to earn? I was trembling in Henry's arms, my teeth chattering with fear. He wrapped me in a blanket, coaxed me to sleep until dawn, and hoarsely asked, Mary, what do you want? Of course, I wanted money, lots and lots of it. But when I returned to the rental apartment with the money, realizing Mickey would never come back, I broke down in tears. Winter is so cold, and the snow falls so heavily. He died, but I am still alive. If you're alive, you have to look ahead and keep moving forward. So later, Henry asked me again what I wanted, and I said I wanted to win. I can't keep losing. I can't always be the loser. I refused to accept it. Henry stroked my head, like petting a poor little dog, and said, Mary, from now on, you will always win. Taking his auspicious words to heart, I spent 13 years completely transforming myself. Undeniably, without Henry, there wouldn't be today's winner, Tiffany. Over the past 13 years, he controlled me and arranged my life. He always had this ability to effortlessly decide others' fates, acting as the calm and detached dealer behind the scenes. President Law is so aloof that everyone overlooks my efforts and assumes my success is entirely due to him. Even though my brand is distinctive, and the clothes I design have won international awards, and that well-known fashion magazine wanted to interview me, they still maliciously dragged him into the story. Henry is not a high-profile person. He doesn't like to appear in the media, but when that magazine portrayed my success, they praised the romance between me and the Sakura president, even including a photo. The photo was taken unintentionally when we were watching the World Cup match live. The handsome man crossed his hands under his chin, staring at the arena with a focused expression. The woman with a charming smile leaned in to speak to him, her eyes soft and gentle. When the magazine was published, I thought he would be angry. Unexpectedly, he raised his eyebrows after reading the report, his expression unchanged, his thumb stroking the photo, just as he had stroked my face many times before. Mary, you have already won, he said. He was used to being the dealer, so shrewd. In front of him, I felt like a clown. Every little thought behind my actions was laid bare, completely transparent. I said I wanted money, and he gave me money. I said I wanted to win, and he brought me both fame and fortune. He didn't even hide my identity, taking me to various gatherings and important events of the Law family. As everyone knows, I have been his only publicly acknowledged girlfriend over the years. Because of this, the magazine and the public were given many illusions, as if marrying into a wealthy family was only a matter of time. The magazine interview was published with my permission. I raised no objections, as I was testing his attitude. I already have money and fame. If I were greedy, would I want even more? I was 27 that year, and I had been with him for a full 7 years. How forgetful humans are. Looking back, my restless early life feels like something from a past life. Men are naturally driven to pursue, but I have already come to understand that the essence of life lies in simplicity. I want stability, but he told me plainly in one sentence that he would never marry me. Mary, you have already won. I'm the banker, letting you win. You already have so much. Be good. Don't overthink it. I think I'm still not smart enough. Old Mr. Santiago did not insist that Henry marry Anna because the Law family simply does not need business alliances through marriage to consolidate their power. He just thinks Henry has reached the age to get married, and Anna is still quite suitable for him. His marriage requires social parity. Of course, he also has the means to refuse marriage and the freedom to choose me as his girlfriend. After all, I'm just a girlfriend. He's not going to marry me. People at the top always see things clearly. They are both the dealer and the winner. Their thinking transcends ours. Marriage is a very unprofitable deal. If you like a woman, you might as well keep her, control her, tease her, and give her things other than marriage. It's less trouble and effort. So he brought me both fame and fortune, using his resources to support me and helping me break into the upper circles. Even Anna, who once clashed with me, later chatted and laughed with me, becoming a friend. After all, we are no longer young. Women in their 30s are mature enough to make peace with the whole world. Chapter 3. If before I still held hope of marrying Henry, after turning 30, that thought completely vanished. With so many young and beautiful girls around, and me already past my prime childbearing age, what else could I ask for? To be honest, Henry Law has been quite good to me. Admittedly, over the years, he has had other women, but I have always been his girlfriend and enjoyed all the benefits. Of course, these benefits came at a price. I sacrificed over 10 years of my youth, as well as a stillborn child. When I was pregnant, I was already 29, and Henry wanted me to keep the baby. After all, he is 7 years older than me. A 36-year-old man should have a child. That year, his grandfather passed away and left a will granting Henry 15% of the shares in Sakura. Before that, Henry had already used certain means to acquire some scattered shares in advance, preparing to take full control of Sakura. Santiago, once he was dead, no one could suppress him anymore. Sakura, a building located in the CBD, once a retail giant listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in the last century, a magnificent commercial empire in his winner's medal at 36. He is very busy, managing countless affairs every day, yet he still makes time to attend every one of my prenatal checkups. He seems to value me, and also this child. But so what? Even without any obstacles, he still hasn't said he wants to marry me. I had already seen through the truth long ago and no longer wished for things that couldn't be forced. So later, at just over 4 months, when I missed a step on the stairs and had to undergo a dilation and curettage procedure, he looked weary outside the hospital room, his gaze cold and utterly disappointed. I closed my eyes to rest in the hospital ward. My mind is calm as still water. I know that even though I am already 30, and even though after this miscarriage it will be difficult for me to conceive again, he will never abandon me, because I am the winner he personally nurtured. Another medal of honor in his life. How strange it is, when I first met him, I was nothing but an ant struggling desperately at the very bottom of society. He watched this game from above, like a supreme creator, observing me trapped, then with great interest removing an ant from the board. Ants may don splendid clothes, but at their core, they remain ants. Henry, in truth, deep down, he never really respected me. He liked to see me fierce and clawing, like a little beast with sharp claws. His initial interest in me was precisely because of that. He enjoyed the process of taming me, but when I was tamed at 30, obedient, gentle, considerate, no longer bearing sharp claws and teeth, what remained between us were only the years that had slipped away. How dull! It seems no one can escape it. Once the novelty fades, the beauty mark turns into a mosquito bite, leaving only a worn-out scarlet trace. Actually, it wasn't just him who grew tired. I had long since grown weary as well. That stillborn child became a turning point that led us to go our separate ways. In name, I was still his girlfriend. He never said he wanted to break up. In reality, he hadn't come to see me for a long time. My social circle and connections are extensive, so naturally I knew that in his spare time, He was investing in films for a pure young actress in the entertainment industry. That girl moved into his riverside flat villa. He was very supportive of her and later even opened a talent agency that signed only her. From age 30 to 33, he and I had come to relate more like friends. He can go months without contacting me. Then suddenly one day he remembers me and casually calls, asking, "What are you busy with?" His voice is always as indifferent as ever, carrying the depth and worldliness of a mature man. On my birthday, he never forgets to have flowers sent to my office, always a bouquet of white roses with tall, curled edges, pure white and faintly fragrant. He even took me out to sea for a trip, celebrating my birthday on the ferry. Although the cake hadn't been cut yet, he received a call from that innocent young girl. Upon hearing she was hospitalized, he sneered and left early. Those little tricks and subtle thoughts can't be hidden from him. He is willing to indulge her. I actually don't care that much, but everyone seems to think I do. His assistant, reading the situation carefully, cautiously told me, "Older sister, don't be angry. He can't compare to you. President Law still thinks you are the most important. Just look, he hasn't even given his girlfriend an official status. I see things clearly. He hasn't mentioned breaking up with me to this day. So naturally, he hasn't thought about giving any girl an official status. I'm in my 30s, past the age of making demands, and I don't bother him. He's really a good shield. They say, look, Tiffany has been with President Law for 10 years, yet she's still only his girlfriend. Why do you think you deserve more? You are younger than Tiffany, but you may not have her charisma. When she was 20 and with President Law, her almond-shaped eyes and peachy cheeks were far more vibrant than yours. Time never defeats a beauty. Even today, Tiffany remains beautiful. She is a renowned fashion designer, a brand founder, and most of the socialite circle are her friends. She runs a company with hundreds of employees. Yes, I have money, looks, and a reputation. Yet I can't understand why I'm still hung up on Henry. The urge to break ties with him was stirring restlessly. I was even somewhat excited. In the late hours of the night, drunk and wild, I took out the clothes he had left at my place one by one and tore them apart. Go to hell, Henry, go to hell, you damn nearly 40-year-old man, half buried in the ground, still trying to hold me down. You better go to hell. Hatred born from love, desire unfulfilled, psychological distortion, losing it in a dark corner? Whatever it was, I enjoyed it anyway. I can't wait to break free from his control. While he was getting close to the young star, I wasn't idle either. I met a popular young actor named Oscar, only 23 years old, who has starred in several hit TV dramas. Oscar really is so young. He has a face that looks quite arrogant, with well-defined features and a captivating gaze. He smiles mischievously but also obediently calls me Tiffany older sister. We met at a party, and he said he really liked the clothes I designed and wanted me to tailor something for him for the next award ceremony. Tailor-made, this phrase sounds quite suggestive. Henry, if he had cared even a little, he would have noticed that on many nights, a tall guy wearing a baseball cap quietly slipped into my apartment. He trusted me far too much. He even made rare appearances at Fashion Week shows, wanting to support me. I bitterly wished for this man's mask to slip, so we could part ways for good. He sat in the audience, gazing at me with deep eyes. Facing the interview, I boldly declared, at 33, I plan to get married. I showed off the ring on my hand and said, yesterday, I accepted Oscar's proposal. I hope everyone will bless us. I endured Henry for far too long. I had to obey him in everything, like a puppet. So at the fashion show, I looked at him smiling, seizing the chance to sever ties with him, but I soon realized I had made a mistake. The media's spotlight focused on him. His expression was so cold, so indifferent. At last, he curled the corner of his mouth, looking at me with a half-smile. Mary. He called my name, his voice gentle and lingering, as if filled with affection. In that moment, I woke as if from a dream, breaking out in a cold sweat. Chapter 4. I forgot, I can't resist Henry. He is even more ruthless than in his 20s, controlling the business empire that belongs to him, handling the scheming members of the Law family one by one until they obey him like loyal dogs. What does my success and fame amount to today? What is Oscar's acting career worth? All of these are insignificant before him. My seemingly brilliant career and vast company have never been beyond the jurisdiction of Sakura. He is the dealer. I am on his chessboard, with no right to resist. He only needs to move his finger to crush us so completely that we can't get back up. Yes, we can't get back up. After the fashion show dinner, a car was waiting for me outside. Henry sat inside with a casual posture. The window rolled down, and he flicked the cigarette in his hand. That refined and aloof face now wore a faint smile, the corners of his mouth curling with a hint of meaning. Mary, let's talk. Talk? I always knew he was a refined scoundrel, a beast in human clothing. 13 years of dignity were torn apart because of my rebellion. He gave up pretending, grabbed the back of my neck firmly, and dragged me into the apartment. With a bang, the door slammed shut behind us. Henry pushed me against the wall, pressing close from behind. His voice was tinged with a smile, but I couldn't see his expression. Mary, have I not treated you well? You want to leave? Why? Don't call me Mary. Shut up. Mary is already dead. He pressed my neck so hard I was in pain and couldn't move, so I gritted my teeth and spoke fiercely. He was clearly taken aback, but instead of getting angry, he smiled warmly, looking quite content. Yes, you should be this fierce. Just like when I first met you, sharp-tongued and quick-witted. This is the Mary the first no. Mary. Henry really is a bastard. His strength was just as great as before. He easily restrained my hand, threw me onto the sofa, then pressed down on me, pulling at my dress. My hair was messy, and I struggled like a madwoman, shouting, "Let go of me. Go to hell. Find someone else. Don't touch me. Henry, you rotten man. Despicable and shameless." I have never scolded him like this before, nor have I ever dared to. I am quite a ridiculous person. Since childhood, Mickey has said I'm like a spring, always able to be pressed down a little more, then a little more, until I can't be pressed any further, and then suddenly I bounce back, recklessly throwing myself into things. Now I've thrown myself into it, completely tearing off the mask with him. But when I scolded him, he was neither angry nor annoyed. He looked at me with interest, smiled slightly, and said slowly, "All right, it's just marriage, isn't it? I can marry you. Bali or Howard Castle, the wedding venue is your choice." After the dinner ended, I had someone send her away. Honestly, if you just asked, there wouldn't be any other women around me. Mary, look how perfect we are for each other. Even if you don't want my child and deliberately lost him, I still can't bear to let go. I want to keep you by my side forever. I looked at him in surprise, slightly shocked. He seemed quite pleased with my expression. The palm resting on my shoulder pressed down firmly, causing me pain. Why are you so cruel? Why so cruel? I pulled you out of the mud, washed away all the dirt, made you clean. If you needed money, I gave it to you. If you wanted to win, I let you win. Why do you treat me like this? What did I do wrong? How can you treat me this way? You don't even want to have a child with me. I'm really angry. Mary, since when did you learn to put on an act in front of me? Playing mind games with me? I thought about teaching you a lesson, but I just didn't have the heart. You know I'm not a soft person. We've been together too long. I've invested feelings in you, wanted a child that belongs to both of us. But you killed him with your own hands. Snapping out of my surprise, I had already regained my composure and let out a laugh. His hand moved from my shoulder to my neck, and he laughed too. It's okay. Mary, let's give each other one more chance. The last chance. I admit I was wrong about what happened before. If you want to get married, I can marry you. You don't have to give birth to the child yourself. There are plenty of ways. Henry, aren't you tired of talking so much? I cut him off, the smile at the corner of my mouth growing deeper. It's too late. I don't want to marry you anymore. I've fallen for someone else. Don't you understand? In this tug-of-war with Henry, I didn't think I would lose, but he was clearly more experienced. His eyes suddenly turned cold as he looked at me, the corner of my mouth curling. He rubbed my face with his thumb, pressing firmly in secret. Mary, the one who doesn't understand is you. It doesn't matter which ride you took. I decide the destination. I want you to get off cleanly. Understand? My face was stroked by him until it hurt slightly. His voice clearly held a smile, yet I felt a chilling coldness beneath it. Henry, please let me go. Impossible. He looked at me and smiled, his eyes gentle. At that moment, the apartment doorbell rang, accompanied by Oscar saying, "Older sister, open the door." Henry let out a soft laugh from his throat, and my face went pale. I felt like I was about to lose. The cost of losing was that Oscar would become the scapegoat. He hadn't even grasped the situation before being pinned down by the bodyguards outside the door. Henry stood up from the sofa, slowly buttoning his shirt cuffs. I grabbed his arm, my voice trembling. "Henry, it's my fault. It has nothing to do with him. Please let him go." He looked down at me, pity in his eyes as he gently patted my face. "Don't be afraid. I need to know who caught your eye and made you have those forbidden thoughts." Henry has never met Oscar. He is a successful capitalist whose only interest in celebrities is probably investment and sponsorship. E was spotted by him unintentionally while endorsing products under the Sakura brand. The moment the door opened, with my back to him, I covered my eyes, trembling all over. He thought I was crying, but he would never know that the gaze I instantly concealed held a hidden, sinister intent. I trembled uncontrollably because at this moment, I was the dealer. I had waited for this day for so long. I was just too excited. So when Henry turned to look at me, incredulous, he said, "Mary, so you still haven't forgotten him?" I smiled. "Forget? Forget my ass. Who could forget a childhood playmate, a sweetheart from youth, a family who depended on each other?" 13 years have passed, and I clearly remember every one of his smiles, his flamboyant style, his arrogant attitude. I remember when we first arrived in this city, we couldn't even afford the cheapest room in a shared house. When we had no food, Mickey would donate blood because the blood donation center gave out milk and bread. I cried while drinking the milk, saying the pure milk tasted so gamey, as if I were drinking your blood. He patted my head and said, "Damn, Mary, aren't you disgusting?" Later, we both worked desperately, enduring all hardships. I worked as a waiter in a restaurant, and he carried bricks and cement at a construction site. I was 18, and he was 19. He was tanned like a piece of charcoal, his teeth shining when he smiled, and he bragged to me, saying, "Mary, that when I make big money in the future, I'll buy you a mink coat at the mall." Mickey and I grew up together. We've known each other since we wore open-crotch pants. He said he would never leave me, that he would take me with him wherever he went, to the ends of the earth. I believed him, but later, he died. It's okay. Oscar is still here. They look so much alike in their eyes and expressions. Chapter 5. I, Tiffany, am a well-known fashion designer. Living in this world is like an onion. We always like to wrap ourselves up layer by layer. But there are always some people who like to pick at others' flaws and expose their shortcomings. I have also been picked apart before, over and over again. And it's nothing more than the fact that my original name was Mary and that I once worked as a waiter in a large restaurant, which is how I came to know President Law of Sakura, who took notice of me. Actually, I was quite looking forward to being picked apart further, but for some reason, they seem to have limited ability and can't uncover the person called Mickey, and the place where we grew up together. No one mentions them, and they just gradually rot away in my memory. A few years ago, my studio launched a clothing collection. It was called Wild Decay. Within the industry, it is known as my most enigmatic design. With boundless imagination, it pushed the use of black, white, and intense colors to the extreme. The fragmented patterns seemed to symbolize death, earning it a reputation for being deeply unsettling upon closer reflection. Because of this, the Wild series did not sell well, appealing only to a small audience. During the planning and promotion, when the PR department asked me about the inspiration behind the creation, I sat at the head of the conference table and told them, I was born in a very backward small village. Over the years, I often have a dream where I return to that place, walking endlessly across boundless grasslands. I walked for a very long time until I lay down in the grass, no longer wanting to move. Then I gradually died, rotted. My eyes became lifeless like dead fish. My skin decayed, and many insects crawled all over me. The conference room was very quiet. They stared at me with wide eyes as I continued. But I felt so comfortable, the wind rustling the grass. The world seemed quieter than ever before. This passage was not used because they said it was too dark and horrifying. I didn't mind. When I was the only one left in the conference room, I stood by the window, gazing out at the bustling city. No one cares about such a rundown place. A small village in a southern city, backward, poor, ignorant, and uneducated. In the 1990s, there were many places like this, and I happened to be born in one, a village that favored boys over girls. If a family had too many girls, they might be given away right after birth. There was only one school in the nearby towns and villages, usually not extending to junior high. Girls would drop out, work for a few years, and start arranged marriages at 17 or 18, hastily getting married. This was the fate of most girls, and everyone accepted it as normal. No one told us the meaning of survival or taught us to resist or seek self-redemption. What was education? Education meant obeying parents. Living was just about eating, drinking, and relieving oneself. Underdeveloped places are also where evil tends to take root. It sounds like a fairy tale, but I won't hide it. I was born here, and my uncle was a rapist and murderer. He targeted victims, lurking and roaming, committing countless crimes. The last time he killed and dumped a body, he was finally tracked down by the police. I was 7 years old, the very year he was caught. At night, eavesdropping on my parents' conversation, I heard my father say to my mother with a hint of hope, "The police have no evidence." It just happened to rain heavily those days. As long as we hold on and don't confess, we won't face execution by shooting. Under the dim yellow light bulb, their faces were somewhat indistinct. They didn't care about the truth, nor about the victimized girl. They complained about the police and worried about their loved ones. But my uncle truly held firm. He was beaten nearly to death yet stubbornly refused to confess. Thus, the murder charge did not stand. He went to prison when I was 7. When I was 17, he behaved well, received multiple sentence reductions, and was finally released unharmed. My aunt and cousin were still waiting for him. The family was reunited. People initially believed in justice, but after my parents' constant brainwashing, I gradually began to doubt my uncle's innocence. He was possessed by a demon and made a mistake, but his crime did not warrant death. The police wanted to coerce a confession and frame him for murder. My young brother spat and said, "Bad police." When I was playing at Mickey's house, I told his older sister Ruby that my uncle did not kill anyone. He was innocent. Mickey, standing nearby, looked at me like I was an idiot and cursed. "Are you crazy? Everyone knows he killed someone. It's a mercy he wasn't executed by shooting." "Mary, you should be executed too. Your uncle is a murderer, and you're harboring him." That year, I was 11 and Mickey was 12. Our families were neighbors, and we grew up together, but we didn't get along well and often quarreled. When I went to his house to play, it was usually to see his older sister, Ruby. Ruby was 5 years older than me. She dropped out of junior high school and worked at the textile factory in town. She liked wearing beautiful dresses and making pretty bracelets. She had 2 neat, black braids and would cover her mouth when she laughed. I used to wonder how Elio, such an old man who raised sheep and always wore a cheerful, wrinkled face, could have such good-looking children as Ruby and Mickey. I have never met their mother. Mickey hasn't met her either. I heard their mother was very young, a woman trafficked from another region. Master Elio bought her. She gave birth to Ruby and then Mickey, but later she ran away. When crime occurs around you and you become desensitized through constant exposure, human nature grows numb and twisted, justice included. Through education and guidance, it is crucial for people to gradually develop good habits and customs. In the villagers' eyes, Master Elio is the victim, while Mickey's mother is seen as a ruthless and heartless woman who abandoned the 3 of them and simply ran away. This twisted place is where Mickey and I grew up together since childhood. The women taken from the village were not only Mickey's mother, but they had all resigned themselves to their fate. So over time no one thought of them as abductees anymore. When it comes to living, as long as you can eat your fill, it doesn't matter where you are. Isn't a woman supposed to marry and have children? Wherever you marry is wherever you marry. Whoever you have children with is whoever you have children with. Just accept it and move on. Why can't we just make do for a lifetime? This is the environment I grew up in, and also the environment where older sister Ruby lived. Once, I asked Mickey if he hated his mother, as the villagers said. Mickey told me he didn't hate her, but sometimes he would think about her. He had never met her, not even seen a photo. I should have asked Ruby older sister this, because my relationship with Mickey was always bad, and Ruby older sister was very gentle, always telling him not to bully me. For example, that time he said he should take me to be executed by shooting, and I cried. Ruby older sister comforted me, wiped my tears, and told Mickey, adult matters have nothing to do with children. Mary is a child. You can scold her, uncle, but don't scold her. Mickey used to scold me often, and I often argued with him, but after the quarrels, I would still run to his house, because my younger brother is the troublemaker of the family, very domineering. I have to yield to him in everything. The TV at home was always playing the cartoons he liked. If I dared to take over, I would definitely get slapped. So the cartoons I liked, I could only watch at Mickey's house. When older sister Ruby was around, I could watch freely, and she even gave me snacks. When she wasn't there, I had to watch Mickey's mood and got chased away by him again and again. I refused to leave and ignored him. He blocked the TV and said angrily, Mary, how can your face be so thick, thicker than cement, thicker than a city wall? Don't you have any shame? Let me finish watching. I'll leave after this episode, I said anxiously. He snorted and kept blocking the TV. I just won't let you watch. Who do you think you are? Always hanging around our house? Mickey, you're my brother. My real brother. Cut the act. Move aside. It's almost over. No way. He deliberately blocked the screen until the cartoon ended, making me so angry I cried. It had become a regular occurrence. Even so, next time after school, I will still go to his house. Not only do I go to his house, sometimes I even stay there, sleeping with older sister Ruby. These occasions are rare because when my parents aren't busy with farming, they work at the feed factory. They come home very late, so all the housework falls to me. I also have to take good care of my younger brother. I'm a girl, so these chores are natural and my responsibility. At home, I do the laundry and cook, asking my second-grade younger brother to help wring out the clothes, but he refuses. I don't have a good relationship with him because he often complains about me, saying I make him do chores. Every time my parents hear it, they get upset and scold me. I swallowed my anger, like the spring Mickey mentioned, compressed again and again until I couldn't hold it anymore, pressing my little brother's head into the bucket of water. I said fiercely, like to tattle. Huh? I'll drown you. Then you can tattle. He choked on the water and cried loudly in fright. When my parents came back, under my intense gaze, he didn't dare say a word. From then on, I stood up like a spring in front of him. If he pressed the water, he had to come and press the water. I don't like my younger brother, nor do I like Mickey, but I have to say, as a younger brother to others, Mickey is much more acceptable. When Ruby older sister worked at the textile factory, if she came home late at night, he would ride his bicycle into town to pick her up. He would also voluntarily wash the dishes after dinner. Although he doesn't like me either, he listens to his older sister very well. This is the sibling relationship I envy. When I was 13, there was an open-air movie screening in town. That day, my parents happened to be home. I begged them for a long time before they agreed to let me go with Ruby older sister, setting off on a bicycle ride at dusk. Ruby older sister took me along. Halfway there, Mickey asked me to get off and sit on his back seat. He said, Mary, you want to tire out my sister. Hurry up and get down. Ruby older sister smiled with pursed lips and said, Mary isn't heavy at all. She's quite slim. Although she said that, I still jumped off the bike and sat on Mickey's bike, defiantly telling him, don't deliberately lead me into a ditch. Mickey snorted and scolded me. Are you crazy? I said. Then, do you have any medicine? Yes. Do you want to take some medicine for mental illness? Yes. Bring it out. Mary, you really are sick. Humph. If you don't have medicine, don't say I'm sick. Chapter 6. I can't quite remember what movie was shown at the outdoor cinema that summer when I was 13. I I only remember there were so many people. It was crowded and lively. Older sister Ruby wore a floral dress, bought soda, and even took Mickey and me to eat rolled cold noodles. I was really so happy. The town was the farthest place I had ever been to, and the first time I ate rolled cold noodles was when older sister Ruby brought them back from the town. At first, I didn't dare to take a bite. Holding it in my hand, Mickey scared me by saying, "You better not eat it. There's poop inside." I was really startled by him. Ruby's older sister couldn't help but hit him. "Mickey, what nonsense are you talking about? Isn't that disgusting?" I snapped out of it and bit down hard, slurring as I shouted at him, "Even if there's poop, I'll eat it. I just like eating poop. Mind your own business." Mickey was stunned for a moment, then couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Ruby's older sister also laughed and couldn't help but hit me once. "You two have had enough. That's too disgusting." To be honest, Mickey always looks down on me, but he is truly loyal. When I was in the first year of middle school, he was in the second year, and we both attended the same school. Once, at the school gate, a dropout hooligan approached me, saying he wanted to be friends and take me to town to hang out. I was terrified, but then Mickey came over, grabbed me from behind, and said, "She's not going. She's coming home with me to do homework." My face was still pale when he pulled me away. Mickey still gave me a sour look, but at the doorstep, he said, "From now on, walk home with me after school." Both Mickey and I have excellent grades, ranking among the top in our class, but my parents said I could only study up to junior high school at most. 4 girls. Just knowing how to read and write is enough. Sooner or later, they will get married. It's not easy for them to earn money, so spending it all on my younger brother is not considered a loss. If my younger brother has good grades, he can continue studying. If not, he will attend a technical school. They will support and protect him all the way. My parents, like many others, are biased. They would hit and scold me because of my younger brother, causing me a lot of pain. I have felt dissatisfaction and resentment, but seeing them bring steamed buns and pickled vegetables to the feed factory, working day and night, tirelessly laboring, I would soon let go of those feelings. They wore those same 2 sets of worn-out clothes all year round, though not very old. Their hair had already begun to turn white. Forget it. Forget it. Loving a younger brother is perfectly normal. Every family is like that. We were brainwashed from childhood and have long since subconsciously accepted that rule. The rule is that boys must stand tall and firm, and I must willingly become a stepping stone for my younger brother. Together with Mom and Dad, we work in unison to lift him high, even after getting married in the future. I want to be the nourishment he can draw from at any time. He is the hope of our family, bearing the heavy responsibility of carrying on the family line, or the support from my own family that won't be looked down upon by my in-laws in the future. Damn it. Although I felt discontent and resentment at the time, deep down I had already accepted this notion. I was 13, and my mind had been washed so thoroughly. The first time I had a rebellious thought was after watching the open-air movie that night. I slept at Mickey's house, together with Ruby's older sister. Ruby's older sister knew I had good grades, and she showed me a letter. It was sent by Yenzi, her former desk mate in junior high school. Yenzi was the only girl from our nearby village who got into university. Not only was she good at her studies, but she was also lucky. She was born and given by her parents to her aunt, who doted on her. Her family was well off and supported her education throughout. After she entered university, she wrote a letter to older sister Ruby, which included a postcard showing the river view of the metropolis, with brightly lit skyscrapers across the shore. The description of university life and the hopes for the future in the letter deeply moved us. Older sister Ruby said to Mary, "Study hard, and if you get into university, you too can fly out like Yenzi and have a broad life ahead." I asked, "Can I?" My parents only allowed me to study up to junior high school. Ruby, my older sister, thought for a moment and said, "If you can rank in the top 3 in the entire county, the tuition and fees will be fully waived. Then the school will surely persuade your parents to let you continue studying. So there's hope. Ranking in the top 3 in the entire county is too difficult. I only ranked 4th in my class. Don't lose heart. If you work hard now, there's still a chance." Easier said than done. It's harder than reaching the sky. Shenzhou 5 just launched into space. And here you are complaining that reaching the sky is difficult? I'm not Shenzhou 5. I don't have two flames on my back. Mickey is doing well academically. If you don't understand something, you can go ask him. Humph. He wouldn't pay attention to me. He's the most annoyed by me. Who said that? Last time we bought sunflower seeds at the market. Mickey said to get some spicy chicken flavor because you like it. Impossible. You're lying. Really? He said that. Repeat exactly what he said at that time. She was speechless. Say it. Older sister. He said to buy some chicken poop flavor. Some people like to eat poop. Chapter 7. Anyway, that night, both Ruby and I couldn't sleep. The two of us are imagining the metropolis in the postcard. The riverside buildings so tall, the lights so bright, I wonder if I'll ever get the chance to see it in my lifetime. Ruby's older sister said she definitely won't have the chance anymore. She met a young mechanic through an introduction. He's a decent guy, and they're currently seeing each other. If nothing unexpected happens, she'll be getting married next year. That young man, both Mickey and I have met him when we were watching an outdoor movie. He came over to talk to Ruby's older sister and also greeted us. He was wearing old mechanic's clothes, with delicate features, and seemed like a very shy person. Life went on as usual, yet it was chaotic and hectic. Ruby's older sister often went on dates with her boyfriend after work. The task of taking her home at night also fell to her boyfriend. That year passed quickly. When I was in the second year of middle school, Mickey was in the third year. We both became very diligent, reciting texts as we walked down the street. Ruby's older sister's wedding date was set. She was radiant, her eyes shining when she smiled. At the same time, she became very busy, saying there was much to prepare. She had no mother. Uncle Elio was always cheerful but only knew how to herd sheep and understood nothing else. I took out the money I had secretly saved and, after much thought, prepared to buy older sister Ruby a half-length floral skirt. It was a sultry summer. Older sister Ruby loved wearing skirts then. She looked beautiful in them, with long, black hair, and she would cover her mouth when she smiled. After the summer downpour, the river swelled dramatically. Her wedding photos were finished and brought home. In the pictures, she was made up and dressed in white tulle, looking as stunning as a movie star. My skirt was also bought from the market through someone and was waiting to be given to her. But after finishing her night shift the next day, she never came back. She died during the night shift handover at the textile factory. Her mechanic boyfriend didn't see her home because he had something to attend to. Mickey had no idea. Still at home studying, waiting for his older sister to open the door. She didn't come back all night. The next day, someone found her body in the swollen river. In an era without surveillance cameras and with no streetlights on the road back to the village, the police said she had accidentally fallen in. The case was simply closed like that. Ruby, her older sister, was cremated and buried just like that. Then Mickey disappeared for a while. I was in a daze every day, not knowing where he had gone, like a walking corpse. I didn't dare sleep alone at night, waking up crying in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. My mother, rarely showing mercy, grumbled but stayed with me to sleep. A few months later, I heard that someone in town had died. It was the textile factory owner's nephew. The one who killed him was Mickey. Rumor has it that the hooligan who wasted his time had taken a liking to Ruby's older sister. Ruby's older sister ignored him, so he and his men ambushed her on her way home. After they were done, they carried her and threw her into the river. The truth of right and wrong could have long since been revealed. Yet in such a sinful place, there are always things easily buried and forgotten. It wasn't until Mickey found the culprit and stabbed him to death that the fog before our eyes was lifted. What sent chills down my spine was that Ruby's older sister's boyfriend actually knew about this. That night, he was supposed to take her home, but because he was beaten and threatened by that hooligan, he hid at home, afraid to go out. After Ruby's older sister died, he didn't even show his face. Later, his mother cried to everyone, saying her son was pitiful, beaten to the point of mental instability. That year, Mickey was 15, still a minor. He spent 3 years in juvenile detention before being released. By the time he got out, I had already dropped out of school for 2 years and was 17. The young mechanic who was supposed to become his brother-in-law went completely mad after a mental breakdown. It was also that year that Mickey and I eloped, because this spring inside me had been pressed all the way down to the bottom. My parents worked at the feed factory and got to know Bosley, who sold fertilizer. Bosley had a son, over 200 pounds, with some intellectual disabilities, and he hadn't married yet. Just like that. Bosley said his son has high standards and usually looks down on ordinary girls. But his family is wealthy. They run a fertilizer and feed factory in town, have made quite a fortune, and even own a black sedan. He said all his assets will eventually go to his son and daughter-in-law. As long as the daughter-in-law comes into the family, everyone will definitely treat her like their own daughter. My parents were touched. They called me to the feed factory to have someone assess me. At that time, I still didn't understand what was going on. When that fool said he liked me, only then did they tell me this with joyful expressions. They forced me to be with him, to soothe him, to marry him, brainwashing, persuading, again and again. Ruby, after my older sister passed away, I lived feeling quite oppressed, but that didn't mean I was willing to be manipulated by them. So at 17, I began to fight back, refusing to see anyone and resisting this arranged marriage. I told them I would rather die than marry him. I never had any hope for my family. I always knew my parents were biased and didn't love me enough, and my younger brother was selfish, only looking out for himself. But I never expected that to make me compromise. After discussing with Bosley, they brought his foolish son to our house and locked us both in a room. That day, I think I must have cried bitterly, like a demon crawling out of hell. Have you ever experienced having over 200 pounds of weight pressing down on you? He had some mental issues but was incredibly strong, like a wall, cornering me in a narrow room with no way to escape. That was the first time I realized how terrifying the disparity in strength between men and women could be. I bit him with my mouth open. He howled in pain. When he swung a fist, I immediately fainted. Of course, in the end, he did not succeed. Can you guess why? Because he couldn't do it. Ha ha ha. How ridiculous. My pants were pulled down, and the reason I escaped disaster was actually because the fool couldn't get it up. That day, when I came to from unconsciousness and saw that fat, big-eared face, I instantly sobered up, went mad, hit him, screamed, pulled up my pants, and smashed everything in the room. And yet, my parents didn't open the door. It was still the neighbor, Mickey, who heard the screams and, ignoring Elio's objections, insisted on kicking open my door. When I, hair disheveled, threw myself into his arms, I saw my parents anxiously helping that lump of flesh. They asked him, "Did you get in? Did you get in? Did you get in?" I looked at them in disbelief, curled up in Mickey's arms, crying and laughing, completely hysterical. 18-year-old Mickey held me just like his older sister Ruby did back then, wiping my tears with his hand. His hand trembled slightly, his voice shook too, and his eyes were frighteningly red as he looked at them. "Don't be afraid. We'll call the police. Sue them." No wonder he came from a juvenile detention center. He's starting to understand the law. But how do we call the police? Will it even help? The instigators were my parents, and the accused didn't stand firm. Ha ha ha. That's so ridiculous. It's truly the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. Mickey was kicked out by my parents. They pointed at his nose and scolded him, saying he was a murderer and that he should never come to our house again. I saw him standing stubbornly in my yard, refusing to leave, his gaze fixed on me. I also saw my dad physically hit him and push him outside. I went mad and rushed over, grabbing my dad's leg, screaming, "He's not the murderer. Your brother is the murderer. Your brother raped and killed someone. He should be executed by shooting. You're covering for him. You should be executed too." My dad slapped me hard. That night, they locked me inside the house. Through the crack in the door, I saw the western room they lived in. The lights stayed on until very late. What were they discussing again? What schemes were they plotting? This place is full of monsters, rapists, murderers, traffickers, hooligans, madmen, and fools. Everyone is a terrifying ghost. I rummaged through the drawer, found a plastic bag, put it over my head, and tied it tightly, just as I felt suffocated. The door lock outside was being pried open. I came through the firewall, Mickey. That night was so dark. I couldn't see his face clearly, but he tore the plastic bag off my head and held me tightly in his arms, holding on for dear life. He cried. We grew up together since childhood, always quarreling like childhood sweethearts. He trembled as he kissed my lips and said, "Mary, I will take you away. Will you come with me? Mary, come with me. We'll leave here and never come back." When he said those words, I never told him that I was like a fish dying of thirst, suddenly encountering refreshing rain, almost drowning and unable to breathe. At 17, I eloped with Mickey. That late night, he stood at his doorstep, glancing at the sheepfold where the lights were still on. Inside lived Elioser. He had made a bed there, and amidst the unpleasant smell of mutton, he kept watch over his sheep all year round. I knew he was not asleep. Mickey just glanced once. He said nothing, and we left like that. Life's road is long, yet I always remember how tightly he held my hand. We ran for a very long time, believing we had broken free from the shackles of fate, facing new life, rushing toward freedom, taking the bus, then transferring to the train, without purpose or direction. The two of us nestled together, my head resting on his shoulder. Chapter 8. The metropolis is brightly lit, with crowds flowing like a tide. Neon lights flash on the elevated bridge, the bustling traffic lively and vibrant. I don't know if this is the place from Yenzi's postcard back then, but it does have a river, and at night the tall buildings across the shore shine brilliantly like a stream of rainbows. It's hard to establish oneself here. At first, Mickey and I went through a very difficult time. We lived under the bridge, scavenged through garbage, searched everywhere for work, shamelessly asking if anyone was hiring. When it rains, it pours. After being scammed out of 200 yuan by a shady agent, we went through a time when we couldn't even afford meals, unable to eat. Mickey went to donate blood. I cried while drinking milk, saying it tasted so fishy, like I was drinking your blood. He patted my head and said, "Damn, Mary, aren't you disgusting?" My period came, and I didn't even have money to buy sanitary pads. I desperately pulled toilet paper in the mall restroom, only to be chased out by the cleaning lady. He went to the supermarket to ask the owner to give sanitary pads on credit, but was kicked out as a pervert. In the end, I held my stomach in pain, but laughed until tears came. He looked at me fiercely, his face slightly flushed. "Come here, I'll rub it for you." The two of us wandered under the overpass, holding each other for warmth. He kept warming his palms and placing them on my lower abdomen. I hummed softly, hugging his neck, and asked, "Mickey, have you ever eaten KFC? No. Do you want to try it? No. I want to. When I have money, I'll buy you a bunch and let you eat until you're stuffed." I won't get stuffed. After I finish eating, I'll tie my mouth shut with a rope and only untie it once I've digested everything. Mickey and I are adapting to this city, blending into it. Even though there was no place for us to stand at first, we still felt reassured and hopeful. I learned that when I had my period, I could go to the salesgirls at mall counters, the female waiters at roadside restaurants, or even the pretty girls waiting for the bus. As long as I asked, they would definitely give me some, unless they didn't have any with them. Mickey and I were not down and out for long. When I borrowed a sanitary pad by the roadside, I met a curly-haired older sister. She was holding a parasol and wearing sunglasses, looking very wealthy. I asked her to borrow a sanitary pad, and she simply took a 100 yuan bill out of her bag and handed it to me. I said, "Sister, you took the wrong thing." She glanced at me from beneath her sunglasses. Later, I began working as a waiter at a 5-star restaurant owned by her uncle. Sabine was the first benefactor I encountered in this city. Although she only casually gave me a business card, helped me find a job, and then forgot about me, leaving me behind in her thoughts. I was the youngest waiter in that restaurant. The manager said I was under 18 and originally shouldn't have been kept on, but my appearance was decent, an oval face, big eyes, quite attractive. Mickey and I made some progress. I became a waiter at a large restaurant, and he went to the construction site to help carry bricks. The restaurant provided food and lodging, so I moved into the dormitory. He also lived in a row of shacks at the construction site. We worked diligently like this for half a year, saved some money, and I eagerly persuaded him to rent a private house. He said we both had places to live. So why waste money? I said it was different. I wanted to be with him and see him every day. Mickey grinned. His sun-darkened face slightly flushed. We bought a kettle, a wash basin, slippers, and bedding. The rented room had only one bed. Before, the two of us lived under the bridge, holding each other for warmth. It was a common occurrence. Now that we were sleeping on a bed, I went to wrap my arms around his neck again, breathing hotly, but he awkwardly pushed me away. Mary, stay away from me. My heart instantly chilled. Sitting up in my pajamas, I said, Mickey, what do you mean? Have you taken a fancy to someone else at the construction site? No, the construction site is full of men. Only the cook auntie is a woman. Who would I be interested in? He sat up anxiously. Is the cook auntie very pretty? Mary, are you crazy? You won't answer because you feel guilty. You bad guy. I grabbed a pillow to hit him, but he caught my hand and protested. The auntie is over 60. Do you really think she's pretty? We argued for a while, and finally, exhausted and out of breath, we lay on the bed. I ordered him, hold me. He reached out and placed his hand on me. Got you. Hold on tight. All right. I'll strangle you. He gritted his teeth, flipped over, and pinned me down, deliberately using his arm to choke me. My face flushed and my neck turned red as I hit him. Let go. You idiot. Stay away from me. We had money, and Mickey took me to eat at KFC and stroll through the night market. After bargaining, a dress cost only 25 yuan, and it looked very beautiful on me. I bought many such inexpensive dresses and clothes because I liked every single one. When I was trying on clothes, Mickey sat on a nearby stool, looking up at me with a silly smile. He said it looked good, really good. This one looks good. That one looks good too, buy them all. I worked at a restaurant, secretly packing leftover food from customers and taking it back to our rental apartment after work. After Mickey came back, he washed his dirty face. The leftover food from the big restaurant was really fragrant and delicious. When I accidentally choked on a fish bone, he hurriedly handed me vinegar and steamed buns, flustered, repeatedly asking if I had swallowed it. In the evening, the two of us wore tank tops and shorts, cooling off on the rooftop of our rented apartment. The night breeze was very pleasant, and I chattered away, telling him about what had happened at our restaurant. I said there are really so many wealthy people. The third floor of our restaurant is decorated like a palace. Every time I walk into a private room on the third floor and push open the door, I feel a kind of dizziness. It also feels like a dream. How can they be so rich? A single meal can cost tens of thousands, and a bottle of wine can cost just as much. I worked downstairs for more than half a year before the manager allowed me to serve on the third floor, and even specially trained me for a while. I was very careful when serving the dishes. Everything is expensive for rich people. Last time, a beautiful older sister wore a mink coat priced at 88,800. She sat by the edge, and I didn't even dare to serve dishes near her. Damn, Mickey, have you ever seen a mink coat that costs 88,800? My eyes nearly popped out. Mickey fanned me with a fan advertising a treatment for infertility, laughing as he said, when I make big money in the future, I'll buy you a mink coat at the mall. The two of us had endless dreams about the future. Mickey later. He stopped working at the construction site. We had some money saved up, and he heard that selling CDs was very profitable. So he bought a batch and set up a stall at the bridgehead every day, with a mix of genuine and pirated CDs, low prices, and many buyers. We actually made a decent profit. The foot traffic at the bridgehead stall was huge but very unstable. Once the urban management showed up, it was all over. Mickey he developed excellent skills at escaping and even teamed up with another kid who also sold CDs at the bridge to keep watch for each other. They positioned themselves at opposite ends of the bridgehead, reacting quickly. At the slightest sign of trouble, one would shout, and they would roll up the cloth spread on the ground, pack up all the CDs, and run off. That year, I was 19 when I wasn't working at the restaurant. I often went to the bridgehead to find him. Every time I went, the same kid selling discs would let out a wail. Because I was better at business than both of them, I would hide the discs under my coat, wander around, and take the initiative. Brother, want a disc? We have suspense films, horror films, Action films, all new and very cheap. Buy one? You should buy two. Two will save you 3 yuan. Sister, want to buy a disc? That thing by Ogawa, a Japanese art film. You can watch it secretly at home. Don't worry. It's definitely art. Those little Japanese have no real skills. They're just the best at filming. When I was around, Mickey would always quickly sell out the CDs. He admired me and gave me a thumbs up because he knew very well that I was completely bluffing and hadn't actually watched them myself. After the CDs sold out, I would smile proudly at him, then take him by the hand after work to go buy groceries at the market and cook. We moved to a different place, with an extra bathroom and kitchen compared to before. Although shared with others and still simple and poor in condition, both Mickey and I were very satisfied. Chapter 9. On my 19th birthday, I made sure to take the day off. At the same time, I arranged with Mickey to close up early and go on a date for a big meal. In the afternoon, with nothing to do, I went to the bridgehead to find him. It was still early, so I used my old trick again, stuffing my coat with CDs and going around selling them. Mickey reminded me not to wander too far. He was feeling a bit unwell and needed to use the restroom. So, while keeping an eye on our stall, I casually scanned the crowd. Brother, want to watch some films? Suspense, horror, action films, both genuine and pirated. Buy two and get a discount. Displaying the disc inside the coat, I glanced at the stall not far away. The person in front of me was silent. When I looked up, I saw Henry's face with raised eyebrows. Law. President Law. Mickey's stall at the bridgehead is located in a park in the Central District, leading to the busiest pedestrian street. Henry is quite tall. He wore a shirt and dress pants, with his suit jacket draped over his arm and a dazzling gold watch on his wrist. Several people followed him, also dressed in suits, looking at me with confusion. When I first met him, I was actually 18, having just transferred to the 3rd floor of the restaurant to work as a waiter. In that lavishly decorated private room, he was dining with several friends, and also present was the big boss of our restaurant, Boss Wang. Boss Wang is in his 30s, and Henry looked much younger than him, yet he was frequently toasted by him during the meal. Sister Lingling, who was in charge of the private room with me, said that was President Law of Sakura. He looks young, right? But he's really impressive. His grandfather is Santiago. I didn't know who Santiago was, and it was also the first time I had heard of Sakura. Sister Lingling mentioned the names of several major supermarkets in the city and the department store building, saying those all belong to the Sakura Group. So I thought, well, not too bad, at least I've seen that mink coat sold in their building for 88,000. Going further back, I once borrowed a sanitary pad from the saleswomen at their mall counters. That day, as usual, I carefully served the dishes and stood aside with Sister Lingling, waiting to be summoned at any moment. For some reason, I always felt Henry glanced at me a few extra times. After several rounds of drinks, he leaned back casually, resting his hand on the table, and asked Boss Wang, "Do you still have girls this young working at your restaurant?" Henry spoke softly, letting his gaze rest on me, so everyone was looking at me. Boss Wang paused for a moment, then called me over. "What's your name? How old are you?" He was the big boss of the restaurant, but he didn't come by often, and I had only recently been transferred to the 3rd floor. So naturally, he had no impression of me. I stood before them and answered honestly, "Boss, my name is Mary. I'm 18, already an adult. When I first started working here as a waiter, people often asked me my age. I'm not short, but very slim, and even the smallest size work uniform had to be altered at the waist. Waiters all wore their hair in a uniform bun, adorned with a hair flower, and were required to wear light makeup. I didn't know how to apply makeup, and at that time, I simply couldn't afford cosmetics. The manager didn't bother me about these things because my face was fair and my eyebrows dark. They said I didn't need makeup since my eyes were as bright and lively as grapes. They also said I was as tender as a green onion. That tenderness referred to being youthful and inexperienced. I did have a face that looked very age-defying. Even though I was already 18, I still appeared very young. Before, when people asked my age, I would shyly avoid telling the truth. Now, I can finally stand tall and tell everyone that I'm an adult and allowed to work here. So I wore a serious expression, my voice heavy with meaning. Boss Wang didn't say much more, but my gaze shifted to Henry, who smiled faintly at me. I thought that was my first meeting with him. It was only much later that I learned from him that he had already seen me on the restaurant's first floor before then. At that time, I was under 18 and had worked downstairs for half a year before discovering that the beverage supplier gave each waiter a bottle cap fee, and my share had been secretly taken by the girl who shared responsibility for the same private room as me. The bottle cap fee could amount to over $1,000 a month, which was undoubtedly a huge sum for me back then. I asked her for it. At first, she denied it, then admitted it, and finally said she had no money. After she promised to pay me back once she received her salary, she kept delaying. When I confronted her to demand the money, she cursed at me. I could no longer tolerate it. During a shift handover, catching her off guard, I grabbed her hair and dragged her to the restroom on the first floor. I pressed her head into the sink, turned on the faucet, and amidst the rushing water, I cursed fiercely. "I've given you face, haven't I? I gave you face, yet you don't pay me back. I'll kill you." I am the youngest waiter in the restaurant, with a face that looks very innocent. It's not that no one bullies me. I endure it all when I can. A spring, when compressed too much, has to rebel recklessly at some point. I was really angry over 5,000 yuan. I look young, but I'm actually quite strong. When the kitchen staff move goods, I think about how those master chefs treat me well and often give me packed desserts, so I always volunteer to help. I kept enduring, not wanting to hit her. She pushed me to the limit, so I pressed her head down fiercely. She cried, saying she would pay it back tomorrow. I slapped her and said angrily, "Pay me back now. I want every cent, not a penny less." Of course, the matter eventually reached the manager. She cried and complained about me, but since it was true that she had embezzled my bottle cap fee, the manager scolded us both. In the end, I recovered the more than 5,000 yuan, and the matter was closed in my heart. But I didn't expect that Henry happened to have arranged to dine with someone at the restaurant that day. On his way upstairs, he passed through the lobby and stopped by the restroom. Then, just a wall away, I listened to a live broadcast. When he came out, he happened to see me pulling that girl's hair and storming off to find the manager. Perhaps because that first impression was so strong, he glanced at me a few more times later in the private room on the third floor and asked my age. I thought selling CDs at the park bridgehead was my second meeting with him. In fact, for him, it was the third, especially this time. I even slipped an action film into his hand. Law. President Law. When I realized it and tried to take it back, he actually picked it up and examined it carefully. It was at that moment that the kid selling CDs at the other end of the bridge shouted to me, older sister, urban management is coming." I moved swiftly, turned around, and ran toward the stall Mickey and I shared. I quickly folded up the cloth, tied it up, packed all the discs, slung them over my shoulder, and sprinted away. As I rushed down the bridge, Henry was still standing there. I couldn't care about him. From a distance, I saw Mickey and shouted, "Mickey, Mickey, urban management is coming. Run!" Mickey ran faster than an athlete, reached me, took the bag of CDs, grabbed my hand, and pulled me into a mad dash. The park was lively in the evening, and the blocks at the end of the street were already glowing with neon. The sunset and neon lights shimmered together, the afterglow casting on us. We ran and ran, sweating all over, laughing heartily. On my 19th birthday, we didn't sell all the CDs, but we went on our date as planned and enjoyed a big meal. Steak dinner, 70 yuan per person. After getting home, I complained to Mickey. It was expensive and tasted awful. The money was totally wasted. Mickey snapped back. "Isn't it because you wanted to go?" I snorted in defiance, argued with him for a while, then began organizing the leftover CDs we were selling. The one I slipped into Henry's hand and never got back, I remember it was an action film, but I can't recall exactly which one. I said to Mickey, "He's really lucky, getting a disc for free, and it seems to be an official copy." Mickey said, "Forget it. I don't want it." That wasn't great. I couldn't exactly go back and ask him for it again. That night, Mickey slipped something onto my finger while I was asleep. I opened my eyes sharply and turned on the light. He gave me a ring, Silver. I looked left and right, grinning proudly. Ha ha ha. Caught you. Huh? You lied to me saying you didn't buy a birthday gift, but you actually gave me a ring. Mickey, what are you trying to do? Tell me, what are you trying to do? Annoyance flashed across his face as if he'd been caught. Then he grabbed my neck tightly and choked me. Call me baby brother. I won't. Are you sure you won't? His eyes narrowed, and he scratched me where it tickled. I couldn't hold back anymore, laughing until tears streamed down my face. I begged for mercy. Baby brother. Baby brother. Mickey with satisfaction withdrew his hand, and the next moment I pressed close, throwing myself onto him and showering his face with kisses. Husband. Mickey looked into my eyes, his gaze shining brightly. His face flushed. I always knew that although he looked a bit mischievous, his heart was truly pure. Before I turned 18, we always slept in the same bed, cuddling for warmth during winter. The most out-of-line thing he ever did for me was rubbing my belly with warm palms when I had dysmenorrhea. I never told him that in the years before we eloped. I often suffered from dysmenorrhea at home as well. Dysmenorrhea wasn't that unbearable. When I had my first period, I told my mom, and she casually handed me a bag of very cheap sanitary pads, saying I should use them sparingly, just one a day. Then she told me to hurry up and soak the clothes to wash them. My stomach really hurt, and my lower back ached so much I couldn't stand up straight. But she said I was pretending and being overly dramatic. Since then, dysmenorrhea became routine. No matter the season, spring, summer, autumn, or winter, the work that needed to be done couldn't be lessened. But after being with Mickey, the dysmenorrhea I had endured for many years suddenly became completely intolerable. I really love being dramatic. I'm so dramatic. When I was in pain, I cried, holding onto his neck as I wept. He skillfully made me some brown sugar water, blew on it to cool it down, watching me drink it sip by sip. Then he filled 2 hot water bottles, placing one on my lower back and the other under my feet. Under the blanket, he warmed his palms and placed them on my lower abdomen to keep it warm. Every now and then, he would ask, "Does it still hurt? Feeling any better?" Mickey has been so good to me. He always has endless patience. I had a high fever during the night. He went out to buy medicine, fed me, and then stayed by my side, constantly wiping my body with a towel. At that time, he still had to work at the construction site during the day. When I saw his eyes were bloodshot in the morning, I urged him to take a day off and not go. He said it was no problem, that I should rest well, and that he would buy whatever I wanted to eat later. He is only a year older than me, but he takes great care of me. Being with him, I feel so safe, so safe. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pressed my face against his chin, and tears kept flowing. I said to Mickey, "Why are you so good to me? No one has ever treated me this well." Mickey said I was silly. That kindness is always mutual. I'm good to him, so of course he has to be good to me. We are the closest people in this world. I said we must always be together, never apart. He said, "All right, I will never leave you. Wherever we go, I'll take you with me, tying you to my belt." Chapter 10. After that, I wore the ring Mickey gave me, going to work every day with a radiant smile. Sister Lingling said I looked like I had won $1 million in the lottery. I said I was even happier than winning $1 million. She said, "Don't show off. The boss is looking for you. Hurry downstairs." I responded with a huh? Who's looking for me? The big boss. Boss Wong. Why is he looking for me? I want to know too. You tell me later. While Boss Wong was waiting for me at the lobby receptionist, I kept reflecting on myself, thinking I hadn't really done anything wrong. Even if I had made a mistake, it wouldn't be enough for him to come find me personally. In any case, I nervously reached downstairs. When he saw me, he smiled broadly. "Mary, come here." He handed me a file folder and asked me to go to Hyun Building to deliver it to President Law of Sakura. I said, "Boss Wong, I'm still at work." He waved his hand and said, "You're off work now. Once the items are delivered, you can go straight home." While I was still hesitating, he added, "Go quickly. It was originally supposed to be delivered by someone else. Henry said he has something to return to you and asked you to pick it up on the way." Hey, Little girl, when did you meet him? I told him about selling CDs to him at the bridgehead, and Boss Wong laughed heartily. When I changed clothes and got ready to leave, I was still thinking, President Law really is a particular person. Even CDs worth 20 or 30 yuan are money. It's definitely worth making the trip. The business district in the city center is filled with towering skyscrapers. The first time I went to Haiyun Building, I nearly got lost. After finally meeting the receptionist of their company, the older sister with exquisite makeup, she made several phone calls before confirming that it was their president-in-law who had asked me to come. Then I followed her into the elevator. Along the way, I saw the vast company. People coming and going, busy and bustling. Those people were decisive and brisk, walking with a purposeful stride. They were dressed appropriately, acted competently, and spoke fluently in conversations, using English I couldn't understand. The floor was so clean it gleamed, the space spiraling upward layer by layer, the fluorescent lights glaringly white, almost making me dizzy. That's right, the dizzy feeling I get when I first arrive on the restaurant's third floor and push open the private room door returned once again. I looked down at my cheap shoes and clothes, then at the receptionist, a beautiful older sister, in her high-quality professional outfit, with a faint scent of perfume. I couldn't help but feel relieved inside. Thankfully, I was only here to deliver and pick up something, and I would be leaving soon. Look, people possess such keen senses, sharp like those of animals, able to clearly detect the scent of their own territory. Places where one does not belong, places that feel out of place, are places that inspire fear. Fear stems from both the unknown and the known. I have recalled this scene countless times since seeing a girl from a small village trembling as she faced the dream the world revealed to her for the first time. This dream is three-dimensional and fragmented, like mirrors enclosing her, reflecting dazzling light from every angle, illuminating every barren part of her. She dropped out of junior high school, utterly barren and with nothing to her name. She always thought she had left the village behind, but standing in that dream, she had never truly walked away, because what was most barren in her was her mind. 19-year-old Mary always carried a fierce courage. Life had no turning back, and she never wanted to turn back, so she straightened her back with effort, not wanting to appear timid. I'm just here to deliver and pick up things. Openly and honestly, what's there to be afraid of? This is what she told herself. The pretty receptionist eventually handed me over to another tall woman. She said her name was Kathy, and she was the executive assistant to President Law. She appeared to be in her 30s, with dark skin and deep brown eyes. Kathy was clearly mixed race. It was my first time meeting someone like her, so I couldn't help but glance at her a few more times. She smiled warmly at me, friendly in demeanor, and led me to the president's office. I had expected to see President Law sitting upright, attending to business, but instead I found a man dressed casually, his collar slightly open, holding a cue stick and playing billiards. His office was so large that it could be divided into a lounge area and a resting room. Kathy saw me off and quickly closed the door behind her. I placed the file folder on the nearby table and carefully said, "President Law, your items have been delivered." He glanced casually without saying a word, so I stood quietly, watching him play. I don't understand billiards and it was my first time watching someone play up close, but I knew he played very well. Every shot sank the ball perfectly, scoring flawlessly. I stood by and finally, as a courtesy, applauded him. He looked up at me with a half smile and asked, "Want to play?" I honestly replied, "No, I don't know how." "You can learn if you don't know." His voice was calm as he casually placed the ball back into the hole on the table and said, "Want to learn? I'll teach you." "No need, President Law, no need. I'm just here to deliver something." I quickly waved my hand and added, "Also here to pick up my CD." He put down the cue, walked to his desk, and took out what I needed from the drawer. When I reached out to take it, I glanced at it and, sure enough, it was an action film. Fortunately, the items were still unopened and could still be sold. I put it back into the crossbody bag and looked up to meet Henry's gaze. He smiled and said, "Do you know what that is?" "I know. Have you seen it?" I honestly shook my head. "No. My boyfriend won't let me see it. He said once it's opened, it can't be sold." Of course. Mickey's exact words were more than this. He said it didn't look good, that I was still young, and to wait until I was 20 to talk about it. I have to say, Mickey is a very innocent person. He lay in the same bed with me for a year, but absolutely nothing ever happened. I was very upset at the time. Grabbing any chance to cling to him, he caught my wrist and, gritting his teeth each time, said, "You better behave yourself. You're too young. Still underage." I snorted. "What are you pretending for? Girls where I come from get married and have children at 17. Mickey's expression darkened as he patted my head. He said, "Mary, you know, this isn't good. They just have no other choice." My spirits, which had been high, immediately sank because of him, and I muttered, "Some of them are actually quite happy. That's because they haven't seen the world beyond. If they had the chance to step outside and look around, they wouldn't accept being trapped in such a place. Just marrying and having children." I wrapped my arms around Mickey's waist, half lying on him, and fell silent. Yes, no one is willing to live that kind of life. Mickey and I were just luckier. We managed to escape, but not everyone can break free. Some springs get completely worn out from constant pressure. Others, when about to be fully compressed, suddenly have a heavy burden lifted off, giving them a moment to breathe, only to be pressed again, over and over. Some springs, from the moment they were born, were clamped by pliers and stretched straight into a wire. This topic is quite heavy. Honestly, I really dislike hearing Mickey bring it up. It makes me think of many unhappy, sad, and fearful things. So Mickey and I lived peacefully until after we turned 18. One day, I still threw myself at him and whispered in his ear, "Brother, I'm really not young anymore. You should check." His face flushed all the way to his ears, his hand resting on my waist. "Let me say this first, I have no experience. So don't laugh at me," I said. "I have no experience either. Let's learn and explore together." Perhaps because our discussion became too intense later, when I suggested buying a DVD player to watch movies at home, he immediately objected. "What are little girls watching? Wait until you're 20. He said. "You only need to watch me. Isn't that enough for you?" I complained. "I didn't say to watch action films, just some ordinary movies." "No, you'll sneak a look when I'm not home." "I won't. You will. When you sell discs, you tell people to go home and watch secretly." "I'm already an adult. Just turned 18. Wait another 2 years. "Why?" "I don't accept that. Watching everything will only harm you." Mickey looked resentful, holding his waist, and muttered, "It will damn well harm me too." Chapter 11. I was about to leave after retrieving the CD from Henry. Unexpectedly, his assistant Kathy came in carrying 2 freshly brewed cups of coffee. On the meeting table, there was also a fruit platter and several desserts, all looking very fresh. Henry picked up the coffee and took a sip, then naturally led me to the guest sofa, gesturing for me to sit down. I didn't have the heart to refuse. I thought he had something to tell Boss Wong, but as soon as he sat down, his phone rang, and he stepped aside to take the call. The call lasted a long time. His voice was cold and weary, and toward the end, he sounded somewhat impatient. I really did wait a long time. I took a sip of the coffee Kathy brought me. She said she'd added extra milk and sugar, worried I wouldn't be used to it. I swear, it was the first time in my life I'd ever drunk coffee. I knew coffee was bitter, but I didn't expect it to be that bitter. So the moment I took it into my mouth, I immediately spat it out with a puff. Henry, who was on the phone, turned to look at me, flustered. I fumbled to take a tissue out of my bag, wanting to wipe my mouth. He walked toward me, talking to someone as he stood in front of me. Before I could react, he suddenly reached out and wiped the corner of my mouth. This gesture stunned both me and him. He hung up the phone and said to me, "Sorry, I have OCD." Henry's expression was calm. I quickly said, "It's okay, President Law. May I leave now? Have some fruit before you go. I specially had someone prepare it for you." This sentence was deliberately prepared by someone, but I was completely confused and didn't quite understand it. Henry had already sat down, so let me sit as well. He asked me to eat some fruit before leaving. I felt that not eating might seem disrespectful to him, So I sat down again and actually used a fork to eat from the fruit plate. One reason was that I wanted to finish eating quickly so I could leave. The other was that the fruit was indeed very sweet and fragrant, and there were varieties I had never tried before. So I took bite after bite, seriously, and finished it all for him. Henry just sat quietly beside me, watching me eat the fruit. He seemed to be in a good mood, absent-mindedly rubbing his thumb, his eyes deep and thoughtful. His gaze made me feel very uneasy. I frowned, just about to say that I had finished eating and could leave. He spoke first, deliberately saying, "Your boyfriend's name is Mickey?" Mentioning Mickey. Of course. I couldn't leave, because he seemed very interested in him and asked many questions about him, and I was quite intrigued by his interest, wondering why he suddenly brought up Mickey. Whatever the reason, I quickly realized that he looked down on him. When I heard that he sold CDs at a bridgehead stall, a faint sneer curled at the corner of his mouth. This perception frustrates me. I said to him, "My boyfriend works very hard and is very ambitious. In my eyes, he is the best person and the one I love most. I don't know what you, President Law, mean, but you don't need to look down on him, nor look down on me. After all, we don't owe you anything. We're not even your employees." Henry was somewhat surprised by my bluntness. Seeing I was unhappy, he chuckled and frankly admitted, "Sorry, I didn't mean to look down on you, but I really don't think much of him." I frowned and glared at him. He curled the corner of his mouth and said, "Mary, you're young, beautiful, and resilient. You deserve a better future, not serving dishes in a restaurant, nor setting up a stall at the bridgehead to avoid urban management. You think your boyfriend is good and that true love is everything because you're young and inexperienced. Once a person's insight is limited, it's like a short person watching a play. When those in front laugh, you laugh too, even though your eyes can't see what's happening and you don't know why you're laughing. It isn't until many years later, when you finally wake up, that you realize they were laughing at the play, but you were laughing at yourself." Henry looked at me, his expression lazy, his voice indifferent. My frown deepened. "President Law, I'm not well educated. What exactly are you trying to say? Please be clear. If he can't give you what you want, then he shouldn't hold you back. It would be a pity to let an interesting cicada die in the summer without ever seeing the snow." He adjusted his posture, looked at me with a smile, and said, "I can give you a sum of money. Leave him. Come to me, and I will offer you a broader life." His words truly shocked me. I stood up immediately, incredulous. "Are you trying to keep me as a mistress? Don't think so dirty. It's cultivation." His gaze was calm as he glanced at me. "This is a chance to change your destiny. You could sit in the front row watching the show, or you could become the protagonist of your own life, doing whatever you want, on the road to your own success. You only need to give up a little bit of the dross. You're so smart. You should know how to choose." Why me? There is no why. Sometimes, the connection between people only needs one glance. I wanted to reach out to you. Perhaps it was just a sudden impulse in the moment, without any real meaning. "How much do you intend to pay to buy me out?" I snapped out of my shock and laughed in disbelief. Henry aloof, with a subtle expression, 200,000, that's the price you're worth right now. He is a businessman. Businessmen tend to measure everything and everyone by money. But I am an ordinary person. As he said, I am young and resilient. Even if I'm just a bystander, 19-year-old Mary is willing. Who is he to point fingers at me and Mickey? I curled my lips at him, smiling with malice. "President Law, Mickey is not the dregs of my life. I would give everything for him, even my life. Do you believe that?" Henry furrowed his brows. I continued, "Go ahead and laugh at us all you want. Laugh however you like. I truly believe in love above all else. Even if it makes me a fool or an idiot, I'm happy and willing. You better keep laughing at us, because Mickey and I have everything except money. You're different. You have nothing except money. Never provoke a young, spirited girl, nor try to lecture her with your so-called truths. Her life needs to be fought for and understood by herself. She was like a newborn calf. Even if she bumped her head and bled, she never regretted any steps she took." Under Henry's slight change in expression, I gave him a disdainful smile and walked away immediately. "A summer cicada, if you insist on letting it see snow. It's purely out of boredom." After that, I didn't see Henry for 6 months. Of course, I didn't tell Mickey about this either. As if such a small incident had never happened, everyone continued with their routines as usual. He remained the aloof Sakura president. I am a waiter at the restaurant. 2 lines that should have remained parallel were destined to stretch along the same path. At the end of that year, their group rented out the entire restaurant to host a grand annual banquet. Half a year later, I saw him again. The much-admired President Law was always surrounded by many people. He was just as before, sharp in a perfectly tailored suit, with keen eyes, noble yet distant. Their annual banquet was very successful and lively, with several popular celebrities invited. We stood at the entrance of the banquet hall. As he passed by me, he was talking with a smiling female celebrity beside him, his gaze cold and unwavering. I breathed a sigh of relief. Half a year ago, I made a bold statement in his office, which felt great, but afterward, I was worried for a while. He and Boss Wang are friends, and I was afraid that in a fit of anger, he would make things difficult for me and jeopardize my job. Fortunately, he is not that kind of person. Some unexpected events occurred during the second half of the annual meeting. When Henry Law was giving his speech on stage, a man in a suit in the audience, emboldened by alcohol, stood up and arrogantly slammed the table. His name is Joel, who is actually Henry's cousin, the third grandson of Mr. Santiago, holding the position of general manager at Sakura, and also an heir of the Law family. His brows and eyes were defiant as he pointed at Henry's nose and said, "Who do you think you are? Why should everyone listen to you?" Just now on stage, Henry Law announced some post-New Year strategic adjustments for the group, which provoked Joel's discontent. It seemed to be a long-standing grudge. That's why he couldn't hold back his outburst in such a setting. I saw Henry on stage, his expression unchanged, raising an eyebrow as he looked at him. He said nothing, just stared at him with a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. Paul, the Law family eldest grandson and Joel's older brother, stood up directly and slapped him, telling him to get out of the meeting. That slap made Joel seem as if he had sobered up. He left in anger. After the farce, everyone tacitly understood and continued to toast enthusiastically. I naturally don't understand these wealthy family grudges. I only need to do my job well and provide good service to the guests. Soon, my work arrived. Kathy, whom I had briefly met at Hyun Building, found me. She handed me a cup of sobering tea and said their President Law had drunk too much and was resting in a room upstairs, asking me to help deliver it. Kathy was very busy, and I heard someone calling her. She patted my shoulder and said, "Please, Miss Lee," then left. Chapter 12. I am a waiter. Serving guests is my job, so I followed her instructions and delivered the sobering tea to the room upstairs. That floor was very quiet. When I pushed the door open, the lighting was dim, and Henry was lying on the sofa, face up with his eyes closed, as if asleep. Shadows fell across his sharply defined face. He remained motionless. I placed the sobering tea on the table and quietly said, "President Law, the tea is here." He said nothing, continuing to lie on his back with his eyes closed. I was about to quietly leave when, strangely, a thought flashed through my mind. Could he be dead? The hairs on my arms stood on end. Then I stopped in my tracks, my heart racing as I stepped forward and extended a finger to feel his breath at his nose. At that moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, reached out, pulled me into his arms, and pinned me down on the sofa. I screamed in fright, my voice trembling. When I came to my senses, I was already pinned beneath him. His face hovered above me, a pair of deep, sharp eyes looking at me with a teasing glint. My heavy breathing from fright echoed clearly in the silent room. Yet he actually laughed out loud, seemingly in good spirits. I struggled to get up, furious and ashamed, angrily snapping, "What are you doing getting up?" Henry, with a faint trace of alcohol on his breath, looked at me, his palm resting on my head, tucking the stray hair at my forehead behind my ear, then gently touching my face. "Mary, what do you want?" His palm was warm, his breath warm, and even his voice carried a gentle warmth. I pushed him desperately, breaking out in a cold sweat, almost in tears. "I want you to get up. So get up!" My voice was fierce as I glared angrily. He chuckled and, with amusement, pinched my neck. Then he stood up and let go of me. I quickly stood up, a few steps away from him, hurriedly straightening my dress and my disheveled hair. He looked at me with a smile, his eyes deep, his voice tinged with a drunken huskiness. I apologize. What happened before was my abruptness. And this time I was wrong too. I shouldn't have rashly said those things to you, doubting the true love you spoke of. But you have to admit, Mary, your youth and naivety are facts. And I only hope you can see this world clearly. What are you talking about now? I looked at him warily. He said slowly, you deserve a better life. I just want to offer you an opportunity. After the new year, you can change jobs and go see Kathy. She will arrange everything for you. At what cost? There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world, right? President Law. Henry leaned back slightly, rubbing his brow. His voice carried a hint of weariness. What if I told you there are no strings attached this time? Then I'll tell you clearly, I don't eat free lunches either. I only accept what I can take with a clear conscience. Don't bother scheming. Goodbye. No. I hope we never meet again. I fixed my hair accessory again, cast him a cold glance, and turned to leave. He called out to me, wait. I turned around, and he pulled out his phone from his suit pocket and dialed my number right in front of me. Then he looked at me and said, remember my number, Mary. The price I'm offering you now is 1 million. Think it over, and you can call me anytime. 1 million. I scoffed and turned away. I was really too young then, proud and arrogant. Even if he had offered 10 million, I would have surely sneered at it. Money is a concept I simply have no understanding of. Of course, I think things are fairly straightforward. In Henry's mind, I was only worth 1 million. That was his final valuation of 19-year-old Mary. A year later, I truly went with him. Life is unpredictable. Mickey died. I clearly remember he no longer set up a stall at the bridgehead. The owner of the imaging studio where he sourced goods, who treated him like a brother, asked if he was interested in going into phone card wholesale together. The imaging studio owner had supply sources, buying at half price from a big boss named Gu, then selling at 90%. We took out all our savings and, under the guidance of the imaging studio owner, earned our first pot of gold. Later, Mickey said he didn't want to be partners anymore and wanted to work separately, so he found a new storefront and opened a single shop with that big boss named Gu. After that, business was consistently good. We earned a lot, but also had a large amount tied up in inventory. When funds were short, we sometimes owed Boss Gu a batch of goods on credit. Mickey was truly hardworking. He hired someone to watch the store and went out early and late every day to find sales channels. After a summer passed, he became as tanned as when he used to work on the construction site. During that time, we really made a lot of money. Mickey said he could soon take me to the mall to buy a mink coat. I snorted and said no way, just buy me a cashmere coat worth 1,000 yuan. Mickey said that wouldn't do. If we're buying, then buy 10. He picked me up and spun me around, making me dizzy. We were so happy, laughing and joking as we dreamed of getting rich, saving money, buying a house, having a real home, and firmly establishing ourselves in this city. But this dream ended so quickly, almost overnight. The market was suddenly disrupted. The cards we bought at half price were being sold on the market at just 20%. Not only did we suffer heavy losses, but the imaging studio owner also lost nearly 2 million. When he called Mickey, he cried bitterly. After clearing the inventory, Mickey still owed Boss Gu 400,000 in payment for goods. That Boss Gu, whom I don't know, was said to have been involved in the underworld in the past. His men were specifically in charge of debt collection and didn't care about anything else, threatening that if the money wasn't paid back, they would kill Mickey. Mickey was beaten once. I returned to the rental apartment and hadn't seen him for several days. At night, I was anxious, only to see him come back covered in wounds. I held him and cried uncontrollably. He said he was bruised and swollen, his eyes barely open. Yet he comforted me, saying, "Don't be afraid, Mary. It's okay." I went to see Boss Gu and made an agreement to pay in installments. He said, "It's okay, don't worry, they're just trying to scare me. They wouldn't really want to take my life over a few 100,000. I really want to go find Henry. But deep down, I still believe that Mickey and I haven't lost yet. It's not the end of the road." Mickey said the money could be paid back slowly, and I believed him. I found another job at a breakfast shop, starting work at 4 in the morning. The restaurant closed at 11 at night, and after returning to the rental apartment, I usually only got 4 hours of sleep. Later, when I was too tired and exhausted, I occasionally stayed overnight in the dormitory. Mickey was very sad, with red eyes. He said, "Mary, don't be so tired. I'll find a way to pay back the money." I said I feel terrible, and you go be a human target, getting beaten every day. Mickey, why are we so unlucky, living like two dogs? Mickey cried and said, "Sorry, Mary, sorry. Maybe we should break up. I can't hold you back anymore." I cried too, saying, "No break up. Never break up. We'll get through this. Mickey, we will get better." I refused to break up, so I worked hard to make money, thinking that besides working at the breakfast shop and restaurant, I still had more than 2 hours of free time during the day. What could I do with those 2+ hours? It was so hard. I couldn't find a suitable part-time job in those 2+ hours. I haven't seen Mickey for half a month, because I was really exhausted. I stayed in the dormitory during that time. That day, I really missed him and, unusually, left an hour early, planning to go back and see him. But what did I see? At 11 o'clock at night, the door of the rental apartment opened, and he was entangled with a girl inside, their clothes disheveled. There was no explicit scene, just the girl pressed against him, and in the cramped space, they were squeezed up against the edge of the bed. I know her. She rents next door and works at a hair salon. Mickey's face flushed bright red, and the moment he saw me, he turned pale with fright. He shoved her aside and walked toward me, his voice trembling. "Mary, it's not what you think." She said she lost her phone and asked me to call it for her. Then she just stayed at our place and refused to leave. I looked at his panicked expression. My mind was truly chaotic and exhausted. My heart felt as if it were being twisted by a knife, making it hard to breathe, painfully raw. The girl who had been pushed away stood up and awkwardly said, "Sorry, I thought you weren't coming back, so I'll leave first." She tried to slip away, but as she passed by me, I grabbed her hair. I hit her like crazy, using all my strength. She fought back and shouted, "We didn't end up sleeping together, so why are you losing your mind?" Mickey rushed over to hold me and told her to get lost immediately. In the end, the rental apartment was a complete mess, with only me slumped on the floor, crying out loud, and Mickey with red, swollen eyes. His embrace was still so warm, as if it could forever be my refuge. He said, "Mary, what's wrong? Don't scare me." I cried, then laughed, then cried, and asked him, "Mickey, if I don't come back, will you sleep with them?" "Mary, believe me," he choked out. I felt so miserable, as if my heart was being squeezed tighter and tighter, making it hard to breathe. I said I didn't know whether to believe him. I needed some time to think. I was really exhausted at that time, under immense pressure. I truly needed to think things through and sort them out. Mickey walked me back to the dormitory. He cried the entire way. When I went upstairs, he crouched on the ground, covering his eyes, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mary, believe me. Mary, please don't leave me." I didn't look back. I said I needed to think it through carefully. My mind was completely overwhelmed. I took a week to calm down and reflect. I didn't contact him, nor did I answer his calls, because his place in my heart was just too heavy. Too heavy. I simply couldn't tolerate any betrayal from him, not even a fleeting thought. I didn't know what to do, but at 2 in the morning that day, he called me from an unknown number and said, "Mary, they've changed their minds. They won't let me go. I'm at the train station now. Come over. I'll take you away with me." I didn't hesitate for a moment. I quickly got up to grab my bag, packed a few clothes simply, and ran like mad to the train station. I think at that moment, I must have been very clear-headed. I trusted him, because he is Mickey, my childhood friend, the boy next door. At 17, he kicked down the door to save me and eloped with me, my inseparable lover. He wouldn't have wandering thoughts about other women. He's very innocent. When I call him husband, He even blushes. I trusted him, trusted him, trusted him. But why? Why did he just die like that? I felt like a lost dog, like a dried-up fish, gasping for breath, my heart suddenly aching, hurting so much I could hardly breathe. He was hacked to death. Why did he die? Because of money. We are so poor, truly so poor. Why am I so useless? From childhood until now, at 20 years old, still so barren, with nothing at all. I was born a failure, unable to hold on to anything, unable to hold on to my Ruby older sister, nor my Mickey. My dad passed in my youth. Chapter 13. I have been with Henry for 13 years. That's too long. He taught me how to survive better, how to enter high society, how to become a lifelong winner. From Mary to Tiffany, it only takes shedding one layer of skin and changing one layer of bone. Oh, and I also needed Henry to send someone back to my and Mickey's hometown to retrieve my household registration book. I reunited with my parents and younger brother. Henry had them brought to this city, initially to surprise me. They haven't changed much, but I have changed a lot. My gaze is cold and indifferent. My parents' hair has turned completely white. They are timid and hesitant, watching me cry but not daring to say much. My younger brother is very worldly and slick, calling me sis warmly and affectionately. I found it quite boring and said to Henry, "Let's send them back." In the end, he took matters into his own hands, buying a house for my parents in our hometown and arranging a respectable job for my brother. It was only after a year or two that I discovered my brother had transformed into a member of the management team at a large local supermarket. Of course, that supermarket is under the Sakura brand. That slick kid had long since married and started a family. Whenever he came to the headquarters for visits and training, he always came to see me, bringing many gifts carefully prepared by our parents. There are pecans, peanuts, and sesame oil. It was quite funny. Once, she even knitted a sweater with the mom brand. My younger brother said, "Sis, just forgive mom and dad. After you disappeared back then, they were incredibly worried. Besides, if it weren't for that incident, you wouldn't have run away from home and met your brother-in-law. Everything was fate. He is called Henry brother-in-law." I told him, "Let me advise you, don't call him that casually." He indeed didn't dare to call him that again, but every time, he still ran over to me. Finally, a few years ago, he came again and was received by a male employee from the head office while staying at a hotel. The staff didn't know his identity. Seeing my brother coming from a small town, with a fair complexion, they pulled him to drink. After drinking too much, he was molested in the room. He sobered up halfway, lost his mind, and called me at night crying, saying he was hiding in the bathroom, very scared. That night Henry was right by my side. When I answered the phone, it was past midnight. Sitting by the window, I lit a cigarette. On the other end of the line, a man was crying miserably, asking me what to do. On this end of the phone, I laughed and lightly asked him, "Did it happen?" My younger brother was stunned, then broke into tears. I casually asked again, "So, did you actually go in?" He hung up the phone. Henry walked up behind me and took the cigarette from my hand. At midnight, drowsy, he hugged me from behind, resting his head against my neck. At moments like this, Henry showed no hint of arrogance. He was relaxed, content, and tender. In his arms, I gazed out at the city nightscape, neon lights flickering like a dream. Look, how wonderful it feels to have control over others. Before I turned 30, I wanted to marry Henry, and I tested the waters many times. Do you think I loved him? No, I just wanted to kill him. The winner he personally cultivated also wanted to be the dealer in life. He once said he wanted me to see the world clearly, as he wished. I saw it clearly. I know that year's disruption in the phone card market, the twofold clearance sale, was just a casual remark from him. Mickey and I are ants living in this mundane world. In his eyes, this mundane world is a game of chess. He doesn't even need to lift a finger. With just a glance, countless henchmen pinned down the struggling ants. How did I find out? In our 3rd year together, he was in a meeting while I sat on the sofa in his office reading a financial magazine. Later, when I placed the magazine on his desk, I accidentally saw an investment contract. He had invested in a boss named Gu. What a coincidence, it was the same boss Gu to whom Mickey owed $400,000 back then, when Mickey got into trouble and was arrested. It was someone under boss Gu who took the blame, layer by layer, link by link. As long as I'm not a fool, it all makes sense. Later, I got in touch with Kathy, who had already left the company. After leaving Sakura, Kathy returned to the Philippines. At first, she refused to say anything. I spent 3 years trying every possible way to get her to open up. She was very scared, and she said, "Miss Lee, forget it." There's a Chinese saying, pretend to be ignorant while actually understanding. Using the fashion show as an excuse to travel abroad, I changed my destination at the airport and went to see her in person. Kathy was already in her 40s. She met me secretly without telling her husband and said that Henry had actually approached Mickey back then. That guy is stubborn to the point of being impervious to reason. He owed boss Gu $400,000, was beaten so badly. Henry said he would help pay it off, then give him an extra $1 million, and let him leave on his own. He refused. Absolutely refused. Henry never intended for him to die in the first place. He is skilled at manipulating people's minds, only needing to keep suppressing him, not fearing that he couldn't endure it. Mickey was repeatedly cornered, threatened, and intimidated. He couldn't hold on any longer. He wanted to run away. The cause of his death was that after I received his call, I rushed out. Yes, if I hadn't packed my things and left with him, he wouldn't have died. Henry stared out the window in the early hours. The sky was so gloomy. It felt like the prelude to snow. He thought, on such a cold night, how could a girl recklessly run out like that? It was so wrong. True love above all? How could such a thing exist nowadays? Ridiculous. Whenever he thought of her rushing desperately to the train station, leaving forever, disappearing into the crowd, he felt upset. He remembered when she was selling CDs at the bridgehead, and as soon as the urban management arrived, she took off running. She carried a cloth bag full of discs, passed right in front of him without looking away, and shouted excitedly, "Mickey, Mickey." The 20-year-old boy named Mickey, athletic, rushed over and grabbed her hand, leading her forward. So young, their hands held so tightly, smiling so happily. Mary's face was flushed. So innocent. Henry thought of himself, but at only 26. How did he already feel weathered and old? His life was unchanging, moving step by step toward the position of the Sakura heir, under his grandfather's expectations. He seems to have everything. His parents divorced when he was 4. His mother later passed away, and his grandfather was strict. From a young age, he became independent and resilient, with a clear mind and sharp thinking. While studying abroad, he had a girlfriend, but they eventually broke up. One should be rational and clear-headed. Feelings should be weighed carefully, considering the pros and cons. So why do they laugh so happily, as if they possess more than he does? On what grounds did Mary later say, "Mickey is not the dregs of my life. I would give everything for him, even my life"? On what grounds did she coldly look at him, sharp-tongued, sneering at his sincerity? And that guy, completely cornered, still refuses to let go. Damn it. Henry furrowed his brows, then slightly lifted his head to watch the snow about to fall from the sky. Fall quickly, cover this vast land, concealing all ugliness and hypocrisy. Fall quickly, illuminate the road ahead, so that the cicada can see clearly. As long as he wishes, the summer cicada will surely have a chance to see the winter snow. Chapter 14. At 23, I doubted the truth behind Mickey's death. At 26, I confirmed the truth behind Mickey's death. I wasn't very sad, nor as panicked as I had imagined. I suddenly remembered that year when I returned to the rental apartment and saw him with that salon girl, her clothes in disarray. I was so heartbroken then that I insisted on going back to the dormitory. Mickey followed me all the way. He was crying the entire time. When I went upstairs, he was crouched on the ground, covering his eyes, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mary, please believe me. Mary, please don't leave me." What was he thinking at that moment? There was a very wealthy man offering him $1 million to leave. That man was so successful, and he liked Mary, And him? A complete failure. A mere ant struggling at the bottom of society. But he has lived for 21 years. And throughout his life, there has only been one Mary. He only has Mary. So, Mary, please believe me. Mary, don't leave me. I beg you. In the end, the story came to a close. Now, Tiffany is 33 years old. I met a man who is exactly 10 years younger than me. His name is Oscar, and he has eyebrows and expressions similar to Mickey. A stand-in? Don't be ridiculous. I'm in my 30s. I don't believe in those melodramatic, tragic love stories anymore. As Henry wished, I had long since seen through the twists and turns of this world, living clearly and consciously, with full understanding. There aren't that many people who look alike. Oscar, that kid, when I met him, he was only 14 years old. He was born in a small town, from a poor family, living with his grandmother. At that time, I had money in hand and casually sponsored a few children from remote areas to attend school. Henry knew about this, but he was too indifferent to care. Later, Oscar came to the city where I lived to attend university. By then, I was already famous, a well-known fashion designer. When he called me older sister, he smiled brightly. I sat in the cafe to meet him, wearing sunglasses, my expression calm. I began leveraging my resources in college to help him break into the entertainment industry. I told him his facial features weren't defined enough and needed some subtle adjustments. He nodded repeatedly, saying he would follow older sister's aesthetic. So his eyebrows and eyes became exactly like Mickey's. No substitutes or white moonlight act. I was clear with him from the start that I was using him. He didn't mind, saying whatever older sister wanted to do. He was fine with it. He's a popular rising star, and we kept it well hidden. No one knows about our relationship. We met at a party, and he said he liked the clothes I designed. He wanted me to tailor something for him for the next award ceremony. This was just the beginning of another story. Before I turned 30, I wanted to marry Henry, but I also wanted to find a way to kill him, not only because he caused Mickey's death, but more importantly, because he treated me like a fool, playing with me like an ant on a chessboard. Later, I realized this path was a dead end and gave up. He wouldn't marry me while his grandfather was alive. After his grandfather died, I no longer wanted to marry him, because I had a better plan, so I terminated his child. He was so clever. He guessed I did it deliberately. I was clever too, knowing he would guess I did it deliberately. Both of us tacitly understood, pretending while scheming in our hearts. Yes, this is exactly what opposing dealers should do. Let me think about the next step. What should I do? Oh, announce the engagement with Oscar at Fashion Week. Of course. I have to hype it up so everyone knows about my break with Henry. So when he gets into trouble, it won't drag me down. But he's still so ruthless, refusing to let me go. It's okay. He saw Oscar's expression. That was the first strike. Next comes the second strike. I climbed onto the apartment balcony, half my body hanging over the edge. A 7-story building. Henry's face changed. He reached out to me and said, "Mary, what are you doing? Come down quickly. Henry, please let him go. Let Oscar leave, I beg you. As long as you come down, everything can be talked through." Talked through? Talked through. Really talked through? I promise. You swear you'll let him go and won't harm him? I leaned out even further. Mary, I swear. Come down. Henry frowned, signaling the bodyguards to let Oscar go. Then, cautiously stepping forward, he reached out to me again. Come here. Whatever you want. I'll agree to it. I looked back at him, smiling faintly. Henry, how much do you think I'm worth now? I'm 33. Am I still worth $1 million? With just one sentence, Henry's face turned pale, and his hands trembled slightly. I laughed out loud, like a madwoman, and under his gaze, I fell backward. You fucking Henry. I'd rather die. Then I can completely get rid of you. Chapter 15. The news of Tiffany's suicide by jumping off a building appeared in the newspaper the next day. Don't worry. There's no way I would die. I've studied that jumping angle countless times. I kept swaying on the balcony until someone called the police and the rescue cushion below was inflated. Only then did I jump. Even so, I still sustained some injuries. I was hospitalized. Henry came to see me once. He had stubble on his chin and looked disheveled. I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. He knew I was pretending to sleep. But the scene of me jumping shocked him. And he didn't speak to me. He touched my face with his hand and then kissed my forehead. Since then, he hasn't come back. I know why he didn't come. The collapse of a 1,000-mile dike by an ant's nest that has been the plan Jessica and I have nurtured over the years. Now, the plan is about to be set in motion. Jessica Law, the eldest daughter of the Law family, I first met her 8 years ago at a family banquet. At that time, her grandfather Santiago was still alive, holding control over the entire Law family. Jessica's father is Santiago's eldest son, and she is her father's first child. Her mother was the original wife, but later fell into depression and died after her father brought home a mistress. That mistress was precisely the mother of Paul, the eldest grandson of the Law family. She was also Joel's mother. The first time I met Jessica, I was struck by her ordinariness. She was 4 years older than Henry, already married and divorced at that time, a 36-year-old woman without children, quietly unnoticed within the Law family, and hesitant to speak much. No one paid attention to her, nor did anyone regard her highly. But she owned 7% of the shares in Sakura. I met her a few more times afterward but never formed a close relationship, until her grandfather passed away. On the eve of the funeral, the family was locked in disputes over the notarization of the will and the estate. Henry took me along, but he barely had time to pay attention to me. He had to deal with the Law family, that pack of wolves and tigers. I set my sights on Jessica, because at 40, she was weak and easily bullied in the face of the Law family's howling. For an eldest daughter to end up like this, it's clear she was a spring compressed to the breaking point. I tested her, got close to her, and used her mother's death to provoke her. No one wants to live a miserable life forever. In the end, she said that as long as it could cut off her father's lineage, she was willing to do anything. I smiled at her. Big sister, you will be the last winner of Sakura. After Santiago passed away, Henry became the largest shareholder of the group. He made a major decision. The shareholders' meeting reviewed and restructured part of Sakura's assets. He was so shrewd, becoming the head of the group, yet wanted all shareholders to share the risks. This review took 2 years before it was finally approved. Next came the asset liquidation, which lasted for a full year. I figured it was about time something went wrong. Henry was high above. No matter how capable he was, he couldn't oversee every single person below, especially Paul, the eldest grandson of the Law family, who has always been obedient to him. His good elder brother. This good elder brother is very greedy. Over the course of 4 years, he repeatedly transferred assets into his privately held company, Sakura. If it were all business of the group, that would be one thing, but among them are state-owned assets with national shares. If it weren't for this asset liquidation, his problems would have truly gone undetected. Over the years, Jessica has been currying favor with her younger sister-in-law, Paul's wife. She nurtures her desires and greed. At the same time, those are also Paul's desires and greed. Little by little, no one noticed. No one will know. No one will ever know. But who would have thought? Suddenly everything was exposed. Jessica and I's goal was to make Paul commit a crime, then drag Henry down with him, embezzling state assets as the head of the group. Don't think you can walk away unscathed. In this battle between dealers, Jessica and I almost lost at the start. Because Henry was so resourceful, he actually managed to suppress the matter. I received a call from Jessica while lying in a hospital bed. She sighed deeply and said our plan had failed. Sakura is destined to belong to Henry. He is far too scheming and ruthless. I gazed distantly toward the hospital window, my voice laced with seduction. At a time like this, it would be better if someone died. Letting things fester, no matter how much you try to cover it up, it won't stay hidden. Jessica said nothing. I added, this is the last chance to bring down Henry. The winner will claim the entire Sakura. A few days later on TV, I saw news about Paul Law, the eldest grandson of the Law family, who committed suicide out of fear of prosecution for obstructing liquidation. Next came the involvement of the investigation team. Then, Paul's wife suddenly gave an interview, revealing that Paul did not commit suicide but was murdered. While speaking, her eldest sister Jessica stood beside her, equally heartbroken. Her eyes were red and swollen, truly playing the part. The feuds among the wealthy are truly like a shadowy battlefield, with bloodshed unseen. Paul's wife accused Joel, claiming he strangled his own elder brother. After the police investigation, it turned out he really did it. Joel was arrested on the spot. I watched the press conference on TV, where Jessica, as the eldest daughter of the Law family, expressed her deep sorrow and apologized, stating that she would take over all affairs of the group from now on. A faint, barely noticeable smile played at the corner of her mouth. This woman is more formidable than I had imagined. Sakura is hers from now on. The small fire has grown into an uncontrollable blaze, and Henry cannot escape it either. He should be at home right now, waiting to be arrested. How many years will he be sentenced to? I lay quietly in bed, eyes closed, a slight smile on my lips, softly humming a song. Outside the long pavilion, beside the ancient road, fragrant grass stretches to the horizon. The evening breeze brushes the willows. The flute's melody fades. The sunset beyond the sky. I won. Without Henry, I am still that glamorous fashion designer Tiffany. So tired. I planned to get a good night's sleep. That night, I slept deeply and peacefully. The next morning when I woke up, I saw Oscar. He sat by the hospital bed, smiled at me, and said, "Older sister, good morning. I brought you breakfast." I asked him, was he caught? He looked at me, shook his head, and said, "He's dead." Dead? Yes. Last night, he was gone before the police arrived. Oscar said, his biological father is abroad. They say everything was arranged. Henry never intended to go to jail. He planned to go to Macau and leave from there. And then, he didn't make it onto the ship. On the way, he had a car accident and died instantly. The driver who caused the accident was drunk driving and has already been arrested. I never imagined Henry would end up like this. My thoughts wandered a little. Oscar hesitated, then said, "Sis, the road where he had the accident leads to the hospital. The direction to the hospital." So, when he was planning to run away, was he planning to take me with him? Or was he here to say a final goodbye? It doesn't matter anymore. None of it matters now. I lowered my eyelashes and let out a soft laugh. In the blink of an eye, I suddenly thought of something, picked up my phone, and called Jessica. I asked her, "Was it you?" She said, "Does it matter? Sister, if you were me, would you do any differently?" The next day, I was discharged from the hospital. The apartment was thoroughly cleaned, with no trace of the previous mess. As I pushed open the door, sunlight streamed through the window, causing the white curtains to flutter and then fall. On the coffee table beside the sofa, the ashtray was filled with numerous cigarette butts. Beside it lay a bouquet of white roses with tightly curled edges, blooming busily. The fragrance was faint, pure white, quietly serene. Only Henry would give me such flowers. I have been with him for 13 years, and he has given them to me for 13 years. White roses. How beautiful they are. Unfortunately, they are not very fresh. Epilogue chapter. At 35, during an interview at International Fashion Week, someone asked me what my most satisfying work was. I paused for a moment and still replied with those 4 words, wild and decayed fields, even though everyone said it was my worst design. That year, after wrapping up a phase of work, one day while walking down the street, I suddenly felt the urge to go back. With no one accompanying me and no luggage in hand, I went straight to the airport. After changing coaches and buses, I returned to the very place where it all began, a small, very remote county town. I hired a car, wanting to visit my village. The old taxi driver laughed as soon as he heard it and said, "You haven't been back for years, have you?" The alley shop has long been gone. Several nearby villages are gone too. They were relocated long ago. They were lucky. A boss from the metropolis took a liking to that area and built an ecological park and a horse ranch. That was 6 years ago. Oh, right. They also built a large amusement park there, free of charge. The metropolis boss is a good man. He boosted the entire town's economy. I've heard that he's had bad luck and never had children. His wife finally got pregnant, but unfortunately, she lost the baby. I heard that when the big boss had the ecological park built, he first constructed that amusement park. His wife is also a girl from our southern region, and she said that once the children are born, she will bring them over to play. The alley shop is gone. Will you still go? Go. Of course I will. As I sat in the car, I couldn't help but think, Henry is truly ridiculous. I don't need to ask the master craftsman what the big boss's surname is. I know it's him, because in the past, he often asked me, Mary, what do you want? At 27, I had achieved success and fame, and had everything. I lack nothing. I said I wanted a very large amusement park, with a carousel and a Ferris wheel. He laughed at the time. Want to go to the amusement park? Wait until I finish this busy period. Of course, that was just something I said casually. Later, he never took me there. At this moment, I stand on a distant slope. The eco-farm is completely silent, with lush grass all around. I saw the Ferris wheel in the distance. That amusement park must be a very lively place. A place with many children holds infinite hope. About Henry, this person. Debts die with the dead. I never want to mention him again. The fields stretch out endlessly. By my count, it has been 18 years since I left this place. 18 years. And the place where Mickey and I grew up is gone. When we were children, we used to run barefoot across the fields at the edge of the village. Now, I don't even know which direction that is. I want to find it. So I follow the grass and keep walking. Just like the dream I had a long time ago. Keep walking. Keep moving forward. Until I can no longer walk. The fields around seemed to hold only me. I saw older sister Ruby. She was sitting on the back of that young mechanic's bicycle, waving to me from afar, gradually moving away along the path. She smiled so happily, saying, Mary, goodbye. I also saw Mickey. He stood ahead, hands in pockets, as if he were 17 again. The wind swept across the fields. He looked at me, his eyes and brows unchanged, his voice distant. Mary, are you tired? Tired. Mickey, I am tired. That cicada that has seen snow, endured the severe cold, crossed thousands of mountains and rivers, has returned to where it all began. In the silence of all sounds, it lay in the grass, motionless, breathing faintly, gradually dying. It is rotting, covered with ants, gnawed clean. Is it dead? No. Next year, there will be many more summer cicadas. All things will eventually be like this. From the moment of decay, they are reborn.